Good. You guys got speakers now. Perfect. We're just waiting for Andrea. Give me a second here. Give me a moment. Thanks, guys. Welcome all to our room this evening. This is our second room with my co-host, Andrea. We brought on two other co-hosts, special co-hosts, CV. I brought CV on because I heard her story, and she's really connected to the inner works of awareness and consciousness, and it really moved me, and I thought she would be a really great asset to our conversation tonight. And Shadowfox, I also brought on as she's a Native American Indigenous shaman. I'm going to call you that. And maybe you guys can tell a little bit more about yourself because I don't have your resumes with me. But yeah, doing, Shadow Fox does amazing work, energy work, healing work. So I wanted to invite her to come out and speak. And Andrea is also a medium and connects to higher intuition and awareness. As I know, I'm really connected with her because we really work on a personal, individual, experiential way. So we kind of get each other on that level. And I know Shadow Fox has quite a bit of information, even on a scientific level. So that's fantastic. And I know CV has a lot of experience and knowledge. So I figured we'd come out here tonight and share our perspective on, expanding of consciousness and shifting the paradigm. I just wanted to cover really quickly from last week. We actually did cover consciousness and awareness, and we did do quite a bit of conversation, or we had quite a bit of a conversation about that, and we left everyone in the sense of, when you leave here, try to connect to yourselves, be more aware of your surroundings, your day, and come back and share with us what you've experienced. As a sense of grounding, and see what you've noticed. So I'm going to open the room up a little bit. Andrea, did you want to share something also? I saw your mic go off there.
I actually got kicked out. Can you re-co-host me? I don't know what I did. I just had to come back
It's
in.
okay. It shows you're a speaker. It's weird. Okay, here we go. There you go. Co-host. Let's do it.
And Shadowfox is a speaker now too, but not a co-host anymore.
It's okay.
Okay.
She's a speaker. She's fine with that. She can't get the co-host for some reason. Go ahead, Andrea.
Hi, everyone. Hello, CV. Hello, Shadowfox, and everyone that's decided to join us early on in the room. Yeah, both girls, CV, listening to her talk, plus she's a ton of fun, and really, really has great life experience, and a great story, really. And Shadowfox the same, just just a ton of knowledge. And yeah, Dee, what do you want to do? You want to go ahead first? I mean, we did cover last week. I'll say one thing, and then Dee will get into her monologue, if you will. We are as we go through this turmoil on the planet, we are looking at expansion for our being, for our species, in awareness and consciousness. And so, we're holding spaces now to sort of dive in deep and look at what that is, and then get hear from all the people in the room who have found it or use it, or maybe don't know and have questions, and just share and really help bring people towards it. And I will Shadow has her hand up, so I'm gonna let her have a chat.
Yeah, hello everyone. Just very quickly, for those who do not know me, I am called Shadowfox, and I am an artisan of the spirit. I am an elder in the indigenous communities, but that's not who I am, or what I specifically do. I am a member, um, but I have done the expansion of consciousness, um, mediumship ever since I was a child. I studied the laws of energy because after two near death experiences by the age of 6, I never saw the world the same way everybody else does, and I sought answers. And so, in doing so, it was my own spiritual development. We have both my husband and I have taught up at Lilydale. We have done development classes and just expansion of consciousness. The overall thing is I have tons of tools that help eliminate the discord in our lives. So, and learning to understand who we are and the power of what we can do. So that's what I am. That's what I do. That's what my purpose is. I have a message for humanity if anybody's willing to listen. So, in a roundabout way, there's quite a few people on the panel up here that have had different walks of life, and yet we are all, resonating and saying pretty much the same thing. So that's what I find truly amazing. And I just leave it with that, and I'm going to give it back to Dee. But yes, it is always the expansion of consciousness and knowing who we are, our I am presence, the whole 9 yards. So thank you guys.
Should we let
Thank
CV
you.
CV
Yes.
please introduce yourself, honey, because you're
Well, thank you. I'm kind of out of breath right now. I'm an old great grandmother, and I am babysitting one dog, and I had two just one out, and so I've been running back and forth until just now. Anyhow, a little bit about me. Oh my gosh, there's so much I can't even begin to say. But right now, what I've been doing in my life, because I try to live in the moment of what's happening right here and right now, is I'm really working on my area and my local area to help people in my own area. I realize we have problems up in politically and so on, that would put blocks and stops in front of us, but I think that we can make it through this whole next year and come out, uh and the rest of us will just be here and be okay. But right now, what I'm doing is I have worked on several years, actually, a lot, several years, probably 11 years at least, right here where I am right now, because I decided that I couldn't go anywhere. So I was going to anchor the light right where I am. And I just figured, well, if everybody else did the same thing, then we'd have anchors all over the planet. And because our hearts go out 8 miles at least, vibe out, maybe we can attach ourselves to each other somehow, hold hands out here, and put a nice little love band around the whole planet. A net, let's just say, call it that. So, and I'm involved somehow in collecting books for my great grandchildren later on down the road whenever they're going to need history, real history. And then we have also, I'm involved in, I understand the DNA thing, and I think it's fabulous that we have the book written inside of us. So I'm going to shut up now, because what happens is I get really excited about talking about this stuff, and I could just go on and on and on. So take the mic back. Thank you.
Thank you, CV. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's really powerful to have, what they say, the power of three or more when they are in a circle, and a lot of healing happens during that time. Um, with this topic today, I just wanted to share something that just came out of me. I just started to write in it, and it just felt uh, kind of connected, as you know, um, all of our awareness comes from who it's given to us from, our societal, you know, what they expect from us in society, or how it's been set up for us. And we lose ourselves as children, and it starts in childhood. So I really wanted to just put a little bit of expression around the child, and how we may possibly connect to some of the things that we believe in today, and our perspectives. And the title is Love and Power. These are opposing poles of a choice every child is compelled to make very early in its life. This is about the human soul and what distorts it into pathology. What happens to an infant when it learns that the love it craves from its parents is available only at the price of submission or their will? The infant, the infant renounces its true autonomous self, and instead embarks on a search for power with which to manipulate the world around it, a quest that will from this point on rules its life. Once the choice has been made, masks the child's inner emptiness, dulls its fears, and soothes its secret feeling of self-loathing. Its need for power soon bars all access to its real emotions, and corrupts all of its relationships into ones based on mastery and domination. The power-oriented world around it puts a premium on the strength and invulnerability, which further confirms to this child to continue on this path of power, leading to it onto a path of dehumanization which infiltrates our whole society. Therefore, human destructiveness and evil are not innate, but develop into a complex process of growth marked by the failure to attain autonomy. My definition of autonomy is the state of integration in which we live in full harmony with our feelings and our needs. I just wanted to share that because I feel so connected to my inner child, and how certain parts of me were masked, and how I craved that love from my external world. Um, and how there could be this, split between knowing what's right for me, and still doing what's not so right for me, because of, I had to, because of the love that I was looking for, or the connections I was looking for. So I wanted to leave that for a moment, and have people kind of connect with that, because that's where it starts. Our ideas, our thoughts, they're all given to us. And now we have to come and, you know, reconnect with ourselves again. And there's help now. There's people here willing to share and help.
And that's
If
really,
I can speak real quick, I just want to talk about conditioning.
well, we will in a second.
That's in a
We're gonna,
minute, Mimi.
yeah,
Put your
we're
hand
gonna,
up, please, and
yeah.
don't
Okay.
interrupt. Thank you. This is not that kind of a space. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, we're gonna have hands, and we're gonna have interactive conversation because we want to hear from everybody in the room. Um, Definitely that's the intent, but just to make the intent of why we're trying to come out and do this on the Tuesdays. It's really moreover because there's a lot of stuff been written over the millennia. I mean, you could literally take it all and cover the whole entire land. And it's been made very complex and very, very difficult. And it's told you that you had to align to this, or you had to believe in that, or you had to be part of this. And the real reality is that those things are all addition to or byproducts of. Necessarily, what we want to talk about and show people all of us in the room that have come to this in our own way, is that this is an innate function of being a human being. And if we so really we want to clear the bushes, and we want to make the transition into utilizing, understanding, mastering, and kind of harnessing our own energy. So to really realize that as a human entity, you're sort of a combustion machine, right? You're having thoughts and feelings, and then that's where your reality takes you. Now, whether that thought is simply the dream you have for your life and you're focused on it, it's that vision that leads the way to the path of where that individual being is going. And I think another importance in our time is sorry, is as we look at what's going on in the world right now, what we're seeing and what we're identifying is that we're under a culture of predicted thought, meaning that they are conditioning and guiding the thought for us. They are, it's always been like that. Don't eat bread, don't eat butter, don't fry your eggs, don't, so, so the way that you condition yourself to yourself and find your own innate and your own being and your own form of expression on the planet has now been succumbed by media, government, and all the propaganda. And a lot of the ideologies that are, and labels and division really have taken us away from the ability to find our own being. We are spending far too much time out and not enough time in. And when we consider one of the big things, we're in a lot of rooms, we're talking a lot these days, and one of the big things that I think, everybody that has an understanding of what we're talking about today has to understand that humanity is actually in an evolution. And our consciousness and the awareness of what we are as beings is expanding. And so therefore we have transformation taking place on our planet. And in the transformation, the call is the awareness of self. It's a new awareness of self. And when we understand this, what we understand and we see is that awareness and consciousness and how we apply ourselves in the world, how we act, how we do all these things, the understanding of how it affects us, but not only how it affects the world. And so that we also understand that although we are an independent being, we also are part of a collective consciousness. And so therefore that we're expanding on these ideas, not ideas, on these functions of a human, and wanting people to be able to find the solidarity within, to be able to guide their own ship on the lovely path of life. And so just so you get some idea of sort of why we're doing this, it's like, well, I won't say that. I was going to say it's how can I say this? Mastering consciousness for dummies, but that doesn't sound nice. So I'm going to say it, but I'm going to retract it and just try to have a sense of ha-ha about it. I'll let Shadowfox go, and then we'll gear up and get rolling.
Yeah, it's very important, what Dee was speaking about, because right now, the energy of everything, paradigm shifts, everything, we are literally stepping into, it's been being initiated, is called the law of understanding. This is what was prophesized, if there were enough people that were consciously aware. This is like, this is like the fruits of our labor, so to speak. This law of understanding is where people are reaching out, whether it be cross political lines or cross cultural lines, cross nations. People are asking questions instead of, coming forward specifically with one idealism and saying this is the way it is. We're asking questions, what makes it so? And so when we take a look in any of this work, it's a double-edged sword, because we end up having to question every single belief system we've ever been indoctrinated with. And we have to see how it vibrates and resonates with who we choose to be. Okay, we can be a loving and compassionate person, or we can be one that seeks outward power. There is a power within, and there is a power without. It's the world within or the world without. And guess what? We all get to choose. And so it is literally questioning every single belief system we've ever been indoctrinated to. And so I think it's very important as we move forward, because we cannot find an understanding in someone else if we do not have the understanding of ourselves. So I'll leave it with that.
And that's the point. You hit it on the head, Shadowfox. You nailed it, right? You cannot find the understanding and congruent system for yourself if you do not understand yourself. Well, first of all, you can't understand the world, but you also, at that level, cannot discern. And she just nailed it, and that was great.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter along any political spectrum, religious spectrum, or anything, family, cultural. If you know who you truly would like to be and truly are, you cannot be swayed by what the powers that be are really, putting forth, because it's like they're just red flags across the board. And this is a mechanism, because truly, when we understand energy, its function, its laws, the way it's interconnected, interwoven. It is an ecosystem. It is an ecosystem. This is where the flow is. This is what my husband's and my book is about. Okay, when we tend to understand a little bit about the energy around us, it cannot be negated. You cannot step in and be swayed in any, because you could choose it if you like, and you're going to have discord and trauma, just, you know, shit down your windpipe pretty much. So there are mechanisms in place. There's ways of learning about this. There's ways of learning about us. And so I will just leave that. But Dee, yeah, I mean, this is where, when we understand the language of energy, okay, and understands its functions and its law, this is how we live in harmony with other human beings, and we're not swayed by the powers that be.
It's universal law. That's what it is. Absolutely. Matthew, go ahead. Did you want to share?
Yeah, like today, and this is something I don't normally do, but I was at a convenience store uh, like early afternoon today, and there was a lady in front of me that had like a 3 or 4 year old little girl with her. And as soon as I saw that little girl, it just reminded me of my own daughter. And then when they were finished, like I just felt compelled when it was my turn to check out to share an anecdote with the checkout lady. I was like, you know, here's the funny story. When my daughter was about that age, when she was 4, we were at a restaurant and she had like chicken fingers, and she said, "Can we summon the servant?" And I was like, "You mean the waitress?" She's like, the servant." So I thought it was a funny story, and I just like kind of blurted it out. But it was like it was a weird thing for me because I'm usually not like that. But just to try to reach out and connect with a complete stranger, it was kind of fun, and she got a kick out of it. She laughed, you know. So that was kind of fun. But um, yeah, that's not something I normally do. But But I did it today, and it was kind of fun.
I'm proud of you for that. That's great. And I think it's great because I think the desire to talk to strangers should be there. And I think we've lost that desire, right? To connect with a fellow being and find out what their story is. And really, if you look at your scenario that went well, isn't it odd how you can get into a situation where you're in front of a teller and there's just no eye contact and they've got their eyes down and no one there, we've taught our society that people are a threat. You have to be careful. And remember, please, everybody, we're not always talking in paintbrushes of all mass, but we are talking in great majorities, where we're turning away from our fellow man. We aren't turning towards them. And whether that comes from, like Dee said, the constructs that are built as a child. So when Dee read me that this afternoon, I thought it was brilliant because it is the part, and I'd like her to read it again, about the child and the experience, because we all understand that our parents, you're raised under your parents' ideologies. You're raised under your parents' belief structures. Those are the people that condition us first when we come, our village, if you will. And we live under the village's definition of what the world is, their worldview. And then they give that to us. Don't talk to this one, don't go there, be careful of this. And I understand there's caution at some level, but you're following where I'm going. So one of the things that we need to do is to sort of recognize this, and that's a great exercise that you did in terms of being willing to and wanting to connect. I wish more people would engage, and I think that would create an energy of inspiration on our planet if more of us did that kind of stuff. Maybe Dee, you could read that little clip.
Yeah, it's just the constructs of illusion that have been created. Like, our parents did the best they could, but they too were deceived and were brought into these constructs. So it's almost like generational, right? This is what we're trying to uncover, are all these generational blocks that were, given to us. So I'm going to read it one more time. Love and power. These are the opposing poles of a choice every child is compelled to make very early in its life. This is about the human soul and what distorts it into pathology. What happens to an infant when it learns that the love it craves from its parents is available only at the price of submission to their will? The infant renounces its true autonomous self and instead embarks on a search for power with which to manipulate the world around it, a quest that will from this point on rule its life. Once the choice has been made, masks the child's inner emptiness, dulls its fears, and soothes its secret feeling of self-loathing. Its need for power soon bars all access to its real emotions and corrupts all of its relationships into ones based on mastery and domination. The power-oriented world around it puts a premium on this strength and invulnerability, which further confirms to this child to continue on this path of power, leading to it onto a path of dehumanization which infiltrates our whole society. Therefore, human destructiveness and evil are not innate, but developed in a complex process of growth, marked by the failure to attain autonomy, a state of integration in which we live in full harmony with our feelings and needs.
And I just want to say, you
Go
guys,
ahead,
she wrote
Martin.
that by herself. Go ahead, Martin.
Great. Thanks, Dee. Thanks for allowing me in space. and everybody in it. We, you know what, we're no better than each other, and if anything, it's a daily improvement because nobody's perfect, and you have to improve me, and I have to improve you, and that's what it's about. But everything's about understanding yourself and just being you. It's about believing in you, and that's how it starts. It must start with yourself believing, and then you can move it forward. But you can only do that when you can look yourself in the mirror and say, yes, it's me. And that's why it's so important because um, when you do that acceptance and you move forward and you can help, everybody needs help physically, spiritually, emotionally, or just being there standing. We all are in troubling times, but we can get away from that. It's just called kindness, understanding, love. And, I'm glad you brought up parents because um, I'll say it a million times. I miss my parents. They left sooner than I thought, and I really miss them. But I was able not only get guidance from them, but to see them not only as parents, but as people, as a person, not as a mom and dad, but as my equal, but as that person that when I show love and understanding, when they give me love and understanding, it's not only felt, it's a gift that when you truly accept it, it starts becoming you. And that becomes the person that you can come into rooms here and speak honestly, not solve problems, but warm people. And that's what we're all about. We're about helping. And I'll just conclude on by saying, you know what? We could be the incoming waters that raises the boat, that moves the boat of kindness, love, and understanding, and move it through and along the way, help everybody which is ready to take the journey with all of us. Thank you.
Go ahead, Shadow. Reply.
Yeah, I would just like to put a point out here very quickly when we're talking about children, raising them in order to become those beautiful human beings that, Martin was speaking about. What if, just think of this, just consider it for just a moment. What if us as parents taught our children to trust their intuition? How would society develop if young children, our grandchildren, or our children, period, were to learn to trust their intuition? And I mean, like in kindergarten, grade school, younger. Think of that. Because the intuition, when we can learn how to utilize it and listen to it and therefore trust, oh my, you really think a lot of people would be led astray? They can make the choice. No, I'm not listening. I'm doing something different. Don't like this one, right? And then they can see you know, there's consequences to that. So I'm just wondering, what do you guys think about that? Because if children were to develop and because they're born open to this, it's a natural thing. We lose that ability due to, like, our parents, especially if we're indoctrinated into one culture. um think of that. I had privy. I had four different cultures that I had to adapt to as a child. So I kept my eyes open, and I didn't just form a specific belief in a judgment or making a judgment call on another culture either. So it was all, I just thought it was normal for everybody. I thought when I was younger, I thought everybody was like this. And I listened to my intuition, and my intuition said, no, not everybody gets this. So pay attention. And I did.
That's
I'm not.
exactly why I connected to what I was writing, Fire, uh, Shadowfox, sorry. And because I realized that what if, we did connect to our own inner being as at a very, very young age and worked from that space, what would occur? How would our world be today? So that's exactly what I connected to.
Can I
Thank you
just,
so
before
much.
we go on to
Yes.
hands? Okay, so before we go on to hands, again, sorry, be patient, hold your thoughts. I'm sorry, guys. Um, I want to just take, I want to expand the consciousness on this thought. And I want to say that children actually are born, like Shadow said, open and connected, and children actually communicate constantly. And so, actually, what's happening is the parents, because they're not aware of what we're speaking about tonight, and that it's innate to each and every one of us, they actually condition their children out of it. And so, I would just say to Shadow, what if if like, did do that? And for me as a parent, I did because I lived like this. But yes, I'll leave it there and we'll go to hands. But just expand on that thought that the children are already like that. And it's the parents that are unaware that condition them out.
Go
Sorry,
ahead,
go ahead,
CV.
honey.
This is a fact, and this is one of the things that we have to get back to as far as teaching our children right from the very beginning, all about their own physical bodies to start with and what kind of an energy communication system they are because of how we are made. And so, if our children understood everything about their bodies, actually, they would end up having the power given back to them to be sovereign and basically not have to rely on the other people to help them with their needs physically, or as far as medicinally or anything like that. um, they would already be in tune with their own bodies enough to understand how each little thing is working inside of themselves. Like, can they even hear their heartbeats, their own heartbeat? I mean, if we could teach a child that, and just all those little things along the way. I have one story to share. I had my children, and I always took them on field trips. And when they finally did go to public school, I actually had them. Uh, we played hooky, and we went and did things because they were good students and they got good grades. So I thought that I could help them skip school. I was the renegade mom, basically, according to other people. But we went to the creek or the river. It was actually a river, a whole bunch of us, me and the kids and my nephews and some nieces and so on. So we're out there and I go, okay, everybody. And we were looking at, I love rocks. I just think rocks are fabulous, and geography and geology and all of that. So I go pick up a rock, and everybody went and found whatever rock they were attracted to. You know how that works. And so then I go, okay, come over and let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about this rock. Because whatever rock it was that they had picked up had a story to tell. And it had been all over the place, probably. And who knows what happened to it along the way before it ever got here. So if you hold that rock up to your ear and listen, and maybe it will tell you its story. So everybody go off with your rock now and see what you can find out about your rock. So eventually, my kids were coming home eventually with rocks in their backpacks. And they're so in love with rocks and nature and everything now. But that was just one of those little things that helped them connect. And I think that if we teach these children right from the very beginning, which means we have to we have to start midwifery and homeschooling. And we have to teach our children all about this stuff so that they can be everything that I probably will never be by the time I leave the planet. But these children have an opportunity. And people like everybody in this room that understands this stuff can help. Thank you.
Thank you, CV. I don't know who was first, if it was Matthew or Slim Jesus. You guys can pick between the two of you. Okay, I'll pick
I'll
Matthew.
be brief if you want.
Oh, go ahead, Slim Jesus.
Yeah. Thanks for the space. So yeah, I covered this last time when we talked about the children's view of the lantern view versus the adult spotlight view. I challenge that children will teach us if we actually listen to them, and they could teach us how to be more childlike so that we can be less adult-like, because that actually limits us. But yeah, I see what you're definitely saying, TV. That's a beautiful story about the rocks. I got rocks everywhere in the house. So I just wanted to cover a couple things. Emotional intelligence comes with breaking down beliefs and constructs and everything else you said before about consciousness. It comes with emotional intelligence and how to deal with consciousness and what's real and what's not. And so I guess I would want to say that think of it like controlling if you can control your thoughts, you can control everything, right? So think of your thoughts like you're sitting on the side of the road and you're watching cars go by, you're comfortable sitting in the grass, you're just watching cars go by. Those are your thoughts, right? All the cars going by are all your thoughts. Now you don't have to sit and grab onto any of those thoughts. They could just keep going by, and you never know, right? But if you go out and you try to stop the cars, you get in front of all the cars, you try to stop this car and that car and this car. These are you stopping all your thoughts. It's metaphorical. Don't try to think all your thoughts. Don't try to stop all your thoughts and analyze all your thoughts. You need to step back and pick your thoughts carefully, right? If you're going to run out in the street and stop a car, it better be for a good reason. So, and you can't stop them all. They'll just go around you, and your thoughts will go around you, and the cars will go around you. So to understand, maybe you should just go back, sit on the side of the road again, take your shoes off, sit in the grass, watch the thoughts go by, let a lot of your thoughts go. A lot of your thoughts don't need to be there. You don't need to be thinking these thoughts. These are intrusive thoughts, usually dedicated to breaking you down, right? So just let a lot of your thoughts go. Don't sit and dwell on it. And the last thing I would say is life to me isn't about love or family or friends or money or good food or any combination of those things. You know what? Life to me is about acceptance, right? Acceptance for who you are, acceptance for who your neighbor is, who your enemies are, right? If you can accept yourself right now for all your past mistakes and your future mistakes that you're going to make, and everyone else in front of you, their past and their future, and you say, hey, this is a human. They're going to be flawed right now. I will accept that ahead of time. I will just assign a degree of flaw. Hey, maybe I can accept it 100%. Maybe it's 50%. Maybe they killed my entire family and I need to accept them 0.00001% just so that it doesn't kill and eat away at me. You have to have acceptance. Even if it's somebody that kills your entire family, you have to accept so that it doesn't turn on you, right? So to me, life is about acceptance as we pass our friends, our family, our foes, if you have any, throughout the day. It's about acceptance, man, right? So hold the mirror up to somebody. If they like you, that means they like something that they see about themselves, right? Hold the mirror up to somebody today. Thanks.
I just want
Can
to add
I?
a little thing
Oh,
to that thought process. When we connect our thoughts with emotions, if you let those thoughts just go on by and you don't attach any emotion to those thoughts, then they don't have a power or a creation that could happen from that. So we create our own reality moment by moment through our own emotionalized thoughts, especially when we speak them. Beep beeps. That's my dog talking to me. So that's exactly what happens, and it's a very scientific thing. So thoughts are important, and if you have thoughts that you don't want to have attached to you, just let them go on by. I think what you just said is very valuable. Thank you.
Go ahead, Shadowfox.
Yeah, oh man, some couple phenomenal points here. And one of the things I'd like to make a mention of what CV had brought up, and I think that what she did with her children about going down to the creek bed and, listening to the rocks. And now this comes from some of my indigenous culture. uh, this was a part and it was a teaching from our elders when we were children. And we had to do the exact same thing, go down and listen to a rock. The only thing is, the difference that we had to do is we had to ask if we could actually pick the rock up, because the rock is there living all by itself, and we're the ones that are coming in and being intrusive upon the rock. And if it was a rock that we would like to take home, we had to ask. And there were times where the rock actually answered, "No, I like it here." And so we would have to put the rock directly where we found it. It also goes along to the same idealism is when we are gathering or harvesting, whether it be our crops or our herbs that we utilize, or even sage that we burn. It is always conducted and harvested in a ceremonial way. So we don't just go up to a plant or even a dandelion and rip it out and say, hey, guess what? Just because I'm here. And again, this is where we give that respect back to Mother Earth. And with the indigenous, there is it's I guess you could say it was a belief system or a cultural understanding, is that walk softly upon Mother Earth, for she is pregnant. And Mother Earth gives us all. It sustains our life. And so with us, this is why whenever we were in nature in any capacity, we gave full reverence to the nature that we stepped into. Also, I would like to make a mention for what Slim was saying, because when we're talking about our thoughts, the emotional components, that emotional maturity in every component, we all have so many thousands and thousands of thoughts a second. And the one thing that we can do and we can tell ourselves, and it's a like a muscle, we can work with it and get very proficient at it. But when there are thoughts that aren't being intrusive, we can always cancel. Slim had brought up about, all the thoughts that can daunt us and so on and so forth. And
Yeah.
therefore, it was like we can always cancel, erase, and delete those thoughts, especially if they're the ones that really are not serving us in a healthy fashion. And
Mm-hmm.
also say to ourselves, to our mind, our thought, that be silent before this being of light. But you have to have the understanding that you're a being of light. So therefore's the rub. But yes, these are the things that we can always cancel, erase, or delete.
Exactly.
Well, I wish he was back in the room because he made a good point. And he was saying watch the cars go by, and those are your thoughts, and he's exactly right. But when you're watching those cars go by, if you're thinking that you're broke and busted, all the cars you're going to see are rickety, rotten, and broke down. If your thoughts are in your prosperity and a positive momentum moving forward, then those cars are hot rods. And there's another piece that he said, which he talked about conditions at a certain level. And so the conditions that we're putting on ourselves. And when he talked about those conditions, what we have to understand is we do put those conditions on ourselves. We don't love ourselves unconditionally, or we don't enjoy ourselves unconditionally. There's always conditions. And where do the conditions come from? Well, they come from all of the things that we pick up on our road, but then they also come from all the propaganda they're shoving at us. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not what. So those are two crucial things that I picked up from his rant that he went on. And then when he talked about thoughts and sort of getting into the thoughts and getting into the momentum, and then once you do this, you have a great life. Well, the missing piece in that is really understanding that you are immediately the reality that you emanate. So you're basically a radio station playing a song, and the experience that you're going to live is going to mirror the song you're playing. And once we put those two things together, and he was right, really learn how to take away all that extra thinking that we're creating and really get our thought finite and focused, and then put a real eye on what's coming up telling me I can't do this. What's that thing that comes for me? And then because what we've been taught is sort of to be in that and ride on that. So like to get in one of those cars. And that, I thought that was really, quite profound when he put it that way, because that's exactly what happens. You get in that car, and then you have that next thought of even more despair, or condemning of self, which just takes you, down. Now you're going faster in the car and faster in the car, and then the car crashes, which is these sort of uncomfortable, anxious moments we have between us. Go ahead, Shadowfox.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even when I was a child, my father used to explain it to me, like, because again, it's like a muscle to learn how to quiet that mind. And he says, quit focusing on the shiny objects. Look at the end goal. I mean, if you ever walked on a balance beam, you had to focus on the end of the beam, not where your foot was. And so he always said, a lot of times shiny objects are going to come looking, and they're all distractions. So, it's just another way of looking at it, different perception. That's all. But yeah, you make some phenomenal points with that. And I'm glad you spoke on it a little bit, because Slim was definitely, saying some stuff. So thank you.
But you make a brilliant point in what you just said right there. That last piece that you said, right? Maybe you could speak a little bit more just on that last section, in your comment back to me.
About the balance beam or the shiny objects?
Well, really, when you describe the shiny objects and how we're distracted by everything, how we need to see that that is in us as we're distracted by our outside, right? That's kind of where I was going with it. Sorry, I guess I gave your, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because when we focus, when we can internalize and look at the world, it's like we speak about it. And a lot of times people, what are you talking about? The world within and the world without. I mean, even if the kingdom of heaven is within us, even if you go along what um, Christ said, there's a mechanism, because the world within really is where the reality lies. Everything else in the outside world is an illusion. They're all little shiny objects to distract us from literally going within. If we're hungry, okay, where's our focus going to be? If we're cold, or we don't have housing, where is our focus going to be? We can, even during those times of transition, whether you're hungry, whether you're cold, whether you don't have a someplace to live, I mean, nature supplies everything. So even if you don't have a home, okay, you can always kind of like create a shelter or find a shelter in nature, for instance. So the focus can therefore be shifted to what those requirements that you are requiring at that moment. But during that time, what happens? You might be cold. Well, are you colder or are you more hungry? So these are all these little shiny objects in everyday life. You could be in the corporate world, and guess what? You get email, you get a text, or you get a phone call and say, "Come to my office." What's your first line of thought? I'm getting fired, or I'm in trouble, right? Or is it, like, I did a great job and I'm going to get a pay raise, or I'm getting promoted. Now, whether those things happen or not, it's what you tend to focus on, is what will be your reality. It is what will manifest. And so if you're so concentrated on being hungry and miserable, and then you go into that office meeting. Well, guess what? These are the things where they're all shiny objects in many different capacities, whether it be, it could be from political views, it could be from religious or cultural or family. All of these can be playing a part in it. The idea is to remain focused with who you truly are. Are you a loving, compassionate being? Or are you controlled by the outside influences of power? The power from the outside is no power at all. It's like a false sense of security. But the power we harness within is an entire cosmos. And I think it's very important to make the distinction between the two. You have a choice. You can focus on the shiny objects. Sometimes they take you down a different path, and you have some beautiful experiences and journeys, and you learn a lot. But again, where do you find your expression? Expression and experience.
Yeah, and I
Hello,
think this
everybody.
is.
Good morning.
Hi, Pradeep. How can I help you? Come on in.
Good morning.
Good morning. Did you want to share something, Pradeep?
No,
Okay. Yeah, Shadow Fox, that's exactly why we open these rooms, because we've been finding that a lot has been going on with the external and people focusing on what is. The what is continuing to build the what is. And so we wanted to share this perspective and this knowledge as to focusing energetically on within our world within, like you said, creates we have a cosmos in us. And so just connecting everyone to their internal selves and focusing on that awareness. That awareness creates that consciousness. So every single day when people are doing something, to bring their focus in on what it is they're doing, like literally bring the focus in, whether you're holding a pen, whether you're cooking your food, whether you're picking up an object, in how we actually become connected to what it is that we're doing in the moment can also bring us into our own connection, into our own cosmos of our being.
Well, and I would take what Shadowfox said as well when she described when you walk in. It's great because I use this analogy all the time. And anybody down there that wants to take a mic, that wants to ask a question or come up, please, because we want to have an open space and we want to be able to guide you to you and your questions about things you wonder in your own stuff. But when Shadowfox talked about when you get that call to go to the boss's office, and you have that rush, and I would call that rush, it's the emotional cord, like think of it as your piano, right? And that's where all of the back patterning's coming from, all of the conditioning or programming, those things that we pick up along our trail that mark us, right? So then the emotional chords play based on all of that, because the body system is set up to protect us. And so if it feels threat, it responds to protect, okay? Which is that rush of what's going to happen. And so when she described, do you have a good feeling or a bad feeling? I would say she's exactly right. You want to look right there. There's so much work that you can do with yourself if you just stop to notice how you react. How does this make you feel? Because we're rushing through all of those distractions and this construct that humanity's built for us to live inside, and just trying to keep the pace with normal, if you will. That we've lost all of this. And so anyways, my simple point in that statement was, when the boss calls you in the office, when you've achieved that sense of ease and peace and synergy with you and your whole being, then that's just a sense of peace. You think nothing of it. You go, oh, my boss wants to call me into the office. And if there's thoughts that come to you that cause a rush, then you would have to look at some of those thoughts to be, well, why am I nervous? Like, so am I nervous because I might get in trouble? Am I nervous because I don't do my job well? Or am I nervous because I'm hard on myself and I give myself a hard time? There's a lot of room there to sort of know thyself, if you will. And I think too, one of the other comments I'll make is, as we talk about, when they ask you, when you hear the words, it's within, go within. Really, what they're doing is they're asking you, or what really what the ask is that you pull your awareness in, gather yourself, get focused in yourself. You use your breath to do it, whatever. But it really means to bring your awareness from the outside world in. That's why meditation, close your eyes, because you dull that all out and your awareness comes fully in. And so when we are trying to bring our awareness into ourselves so that we can focus on self, then the duality to that becomes the matrix of the outside world, right? Because there has to be some involvement there too, but your one little being is the exact same as you would look at the big world, right? You would go into it where you want to go into it. You're not going to go into everything. No one's going to be everything there is to be on this planet. You get me? That would cause you a nervous breakdown. Okay, I hope that made sense to all the ears out there.
Martin, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. You know, uh, some it applies to, some it works, and some it doesn't. And all it comes down to individuals. You know, you can give the advice, and then it's up to the individuals to take it and put it in practice. My real question is to all the speakers that um, we're living in such uncertainty, and so is everybody, and probably a lot of people in this room, if not all. And so my question is to all the speakers that how would you say to somebody who's uncertain to be certain? Okay, if you understand, because everybody's seeking answers, and you're trying to give answers, and we all have to be cautious too. But the question is, um, how would you say to a person that is seriously seeking, what advice and good advice would you give to them? Thank you.
Hey, Martin. I just want to share something too. We're not giving advice. We're sharing awareness and consciousness on how to
Yeah.
connect to yourself. Hold on. Yeah, I just want to share that with you. So we do not give advice on how to, when someone is looking for that security, because that security doesn't come from me or anything outside. That's what Andrea's been talking about. It comes from inside. The only thing that we're sharing is how to develop that internal aspect of self. We're sharing some knowledge on how do you develop your internal self, the strength within yourself, so that you can connect to the powers within you and the knowledge within you, so that you can be you're okay with yourself. Um, so that's just a little bit what I wanted to share. I know Shadow Fox wanted to say something too. Here you go.
Yeah, I think there's a part, both in answering for the question that Martin had posed, and also pulling in what Andrea was speaking about. There comes a point in our lives where we can make the choice of stepping into being in the position of being the observer. When we become an observer in any situation, in anything that we may possibly ask, even like the question that Martin just asked, when you step into becoming that observer, you literally are foregoing judgments. Because if you have a judgment on any particular or a particular thought pattern, that's exactly more of what you're going to see. So therefore, when you can step into, and there's different mechanisms in order to do this. This is, this is a journey. Okay. And what Dee was saying, many of us have journeyed down this. We kind of know where some potholes are. That's all we're sharing. We're sharing a couple of little things to help get you there, and hey, heads up, or this might be a little faster or effective way for you. But it's to each individual person when they, in their own perfect timing, are open to receive the information that we're bringing forward. It's however an individual is going to apply it, because there's four different views that for the speakers like CV, Andrea, Dee, and myself. But yet, overall, when you take a look at the very, very large picture, we're all sharing the same information. I would just like to ask Dee, in a little while, I thought if it would be okay that I could share a tool. It's just a visualization with the group here, and then I'll probably be getting ready to leave. I have something else that I have to do in a little while.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful. That would be great.
But I just thought I'd let a couple other people speak or whatever, and then because it does kind of fit in, it's because our perceptions are our only limitation. Truly, if you really think about
Absolutely.
it, truly there's a great resonance with that. So,
Well, and that's what the whole construct is, correct? Because,
Yes.
oh, sorry, Dee, are you okay? Did you want to talk, honey?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's an entire construct we live in, and really to come in full awareness as you sort of become the noticer. Is that what you said, Shadowfox?
it's the observer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's being the observer, and it's actually a actual, like, in the metaphysical aspect, if you were to study it, or the esoteric, it would be like a proper noun. I mean, there really is, like, a space for that. So
Well, and when you so one of the things I'll say quickly is when you work, like, say you're a medium, they call us mediums, but whatever. I just feel like all humans do it. We just do it at different levels of practice, which is where I'm going with this conversation. But as you're working mediumship, whether you're doing clairvoyance, or working like me in trance, you are an observer, if you will, because when you're in clairvoyance, you have to be an observer to pick up the energy that is being presented, or grab the vibration, or let it flow through you. So, and that was leading me to, I'll come back to Martin's question, because I'm intrigued by it. And, but I will say, the primary question and the one understanding is, we're doing this because we're just four of us here together, and there's lots of people. It's not just us. There's many in the room. It's important that those of us that have an understanding of this start to live this walk, and start to share this walk, and be the example of this, because this is where we are being called to as human beings. And that's another whole space that we could give you all of the sort of symbols that have been along the way, showing us how we were going to end up here today. And so it's imperative. And one of the questions, sort of, somebody talked about practice. I think Martin. You can give information, but you can give it. He used the word advice, but so and so will take it. But here's the reality, and I want to make this extremely clear. If we look at all the doctrine and dogma that's been written over millennia, every single human being on this planet should be able to live and function from this premise. But that's not happening. And the reason it's not happening is because all of it gets read, some of it gets kind of practiced, and we have a bunch of knowledge, and then we have the knowledge and we think we have it. And then we all still struggle a little bit to find that cohesive synergy with ourselves, with the world, and find that easy peace and enjoyment that we were intended to have here on this planet. And so it's very important to understand that what we are talking about and giving you from different perspectives from our walk on the planet and what we've learned in our own way and practiced, you have to understand the answers in the application of it. It truly is a commitment. And it truly is a commitment to understand what it means to be unconditional, because understanding unconditional then transpires into you actually understanding what freedom is. So it's a long road. And I don't like using that or work. I just feel like it's breaking down the patterns and the conditioning. And once we identify that we are living in them and that that's what's keeping us in some of our own confinements, we free ourselves and we have a much better life. And so we just want to guide people to that kind of stuff.
It's also, the attachments. I feel I wanted to share this last week about, taking everything off, removing all your clothes and standing in front of the mirror, because this is the way you came in and this is the way you're going out, and detaching yourself from everything and dropping that in that veil of thinking that you have security in what's been built for you in this kind of reality or false reality that we live in, and just getting a feeling of what that feels like, and standing in front of a mirror naked and knowing that this is who you are. And that's it. There's nothing. You have nothing. You own nothing. It's just you. And if that were the case, how do people feel about that? How do people connect with themselves from that place and start going back into their inner being? Who else? Shadowfox, yes.
Yeah, I just kind of like to share a little something, and I think this was probably about, oh goodness, I don't know, maybe 40 years ago. We're not going to say how old I am, but I'm definitely older than 40. Okay. I was doing a meditation, and I had gotten to just this absolutely beautiful, beautiful octave. And I'm in the meditation, it was like I truly did not care to leave. Okay. And, you had to go to work and you had to do all of this and so on and so forth. Okay. Kids, whatever. So after I had come out from the meditation, I started really thinking about it. How many people literally, whether they start their day with meditation or prayer or set their intent, and then they're great right before they walk out that door. All right, maybe they get a phone call and they got to pick a child up from school because they're sick, or they recognize that, oh my goodness, I'm hitting a traffic jam. I'm going to be late for work. I'm going to do all of these things, and it really can unseat us. And so when I recognized this, what I did is I said, well, all right, then I'm going to start practicing a walking meditation where I do not have to, I can be halfway between where the meditation is and live in this lifetime and live in the world and conduct myself in different ways. But here's the thing. Get on that road and all of a sudden somebody cuts you off, or you're almost in an accident, and immediately you are ungrounded in an instant. And so there's a mechanism, it's a little thing that I had developed, and it is every single time I see a doorway, it is a transition to another space. So it's whether I see a doorway of a car or the doorway of a building at work. So maybe I may be late because I was in a traffic jam or somebody cut me off. And now my hair's out of place. I'm all frizzed out, right? Here's the thing. Every morning when I awaken, I set the tone and the intent of the day. And mine is to be peaceful, send blessings, and for that of expansion, which is in a healing mechanism. So what I do is every single time I see a doorway, I don't care if it's at a grocery store, a building, anything, walking from the living room into the kitchen, I do a reevaluation and ask myself, how would I like to present myself walking into that next room? Is my intent the exact same as it was before, as it is now? What, barring, like anything that can happen in our lives, like that phone call from the boss or the email, come to my office. Before I walk into through any door, I make sure it is a reminder to me of that very initial state that I created when I had arisen. And so, therefore, it can be these little modifiers throughout the day to make sure that we are grounded and we are entering that facility or that room with the great intent. This is taking this journey and walking it and living it every single moment of the day, because you could be in an argument with a spouse, something didn't happen right then and there before you walk into another room. It's kind of like a checkup from the neck up, a checkup from the heart up. And so, therefore, every single time I see a doorway, it is my trigger to recognize how I am going to present myself. If you were in a board meeting and that board meeting went absolutely fantastic and you're just on high and man, you're vibrating and everything else, and then all of a sudden you walk through those double doors and all of a sudden you see a whole bunch of people that are very solemn and they're sitting there waiting patiently, you're just overbounding, right? How about when you leave a space? When you leave a facility, when you leave someone's home, are you peeling the wheels and driving out? Are you honking horns? Or are you in the flow with nature? This is one of the mechanisms. Every single time you see a door, you can reevaluate your intent to go through it. And you can call upon that feeling from a meditation, a prayer, anything. It's just what I'd like to leave with the group tonight. There's a few other people in here that have heard it before, so I do apologize if you heard it again. Maybe it's just universe's great way of a gentle reminder. But Dee and Andrea and C.V, thank you so very much. I'm going to hang out for a little bit, but
Thank
then I will be
you.
leaving.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Yes.
Okay, Patient Martin.
Yeah, okay. My question is to Shadowfox. Trying to play devil's advocate. Okay, in a perfect world for that person, because not everybody can be in that state and be in those times. Okay, and you can't say everybody has to be or will be, because that's impossible because of what they do and the whole thing. So, not personal. My question to you is, after your statement there, if you were taken right to the point, would you go over on what you've said? And if not, why?
Well, number one, I've just been doing this for a very, very long time, and it's only been my own personal choice of where I'd like to leave this world. And to me, in my own personal life, because of the choices that I've made, my life experience, and how I choose to express myself, my world, I will always, always create my world the way that matches my energy. So let me share something with you very briefly. When my daughter, at age 25 years old, was in an ICU in the emergency room and she was dying, there were double doors. They were doing CPR on her, and her husband told the doctors to stop. And in that moment, in the worst absolute moment of my life, there were double doors I had to walk through. And I looked for one moment and I said, how am I going to present myself in this moment? And it was that of, I mean, shock, yes. But what I did is I walked through those doors and I crawled on the bed and I laid with my daughter as she took her last breath. And in that moment, I was her mother. It was a horrific experience. So we can always choose how we choose to experience it. We have that choice, but it's the idea that we have to understand that we can make that choice. But there were double doors, and I had to walk through it. On the other side of that door was one of the worst days of my life. And I knew my life would change forever. And yet, for my daughter, it was the best day of her life. So I'm going to leave that with you so that you can, again, this is a choice. It's your own personal choice. If you choose to or not step onto this path, if you can learn to trust your own intuition, your own guidance, then it's up to you if you choose to listen. We can always see the world, the horrors. We can see it. We can experience it. But you know what? I had double doors I had to walk through. But because I had the training for well over 40 years to be able to walk through doors, I was able to do it with grace, dignity, and being a support for my daughter as she made her choice. And that's what I'll say, and that's what I'll end with.
Well, and that, I mean, what a great story, and what an inspiration you are, Shadowfox. Truly, it's any parent's worst nightmare. And I just have to express to everyone in the room that she's exactly right. And I've met her a couple of times. She lives in the United States. I live in Canada, and we really, Shadowfox, have had a couple spaces and hung out together a bit. But what I'm going to do is I've written all down what I'm going to say, and it's going to mirror exactly what she just said, because it's a walk and a practice and a learning. And these things that happen to us in life, they're sort of like the mountains to overcome. But again, the constructs of the reality that humans have built for us make us take or have trained us to take a different perspective. Okay, so death is a huge, that is such a huge learning tool for somebody like Shadowfox, and to take that moment, and of course it's devastating, but I'm sure when next space when we're together, we'll maybe elaborate on how she managed it thereafter, because I think it's a big conversation for a lot of people. And Shadowfox, it's going to become a very big conversation for a lot of people. And so my mirror back is this. It is a choice. Every single moment. That's why we're asking for observation. So if you understand that your body is it's an automobile, and your conscious awareness is in it, driving it. So when you know that and you understand that, then you can be the observer. And when you understand that your body and its nervous system and its brain has its own thing going on, because you can completely disconnect and live on the planet, as we see by the ruling masters that are trying to take over the planet. So it's always a choice. And when you're the observer of your vehicle, then when things come at you, you can take that 20, 30 seconds to take that breath and really observe that thing and make the conscious decision how you're going to react to it. And and at that point, when you're at that level, then you have that emotional scale, because they teach you to cry and be like, they teach all of these applications of our behavior. Girls, you can correct me if that's not right. So I wrote down to Martin his comment, everybody can. Everybody can. The choice is, will you? And that's back to when you said they can't all be in a great place. Yeah, we can. Every single one of us could be living in a peaceful synergy in our existence and cohesive environment. And that's where we are transitioning to as humanity, is the understanding we've evolved in every other way. Technology, like this is what the humans don't see on the planet. The only evolution for us is not to have a great reset. It is not for a new fourth revolution. It is for humanity to actually learn how to live cohesively in an unconditional environment and respect beings for who they are, and not craft one world thoughts for us to follow or then be ostracized. And so know thyself is the key. And as an observer, that's how you do that. Intuition is, and I was going to go back to, it's all around intuition, right? It is developing the ability so let's recap. When you bring in your awareness and you get into this grounded, and what that means is grounded means you're grounded in your breath, you're breathing right down to the bottom in a slow, easy way, and you're able to carry the breath, and the mind is in control. That's grounded. Not like a scattered squirrel running all over in the mind. Grounded doesn't just mean in energy, it means in mind as well, and in breath, because really those three things go together. Mind, your thinking, breath, right? And energy, just that scattered feeling you could have, correct? Those things are important. So that was just sort of my recant back, is I'm mirroring the exact same thing Shadowfox said pretty much in my own words. And the two of us we don't sit in the background and chat about what we're going to say. It's all organic. And as a young girl, this is my end. I was taught, be in the world, not of it. Be in the world, not of it.
Oh, absolutely. And that was the point when I had to walk through those doors and reevaluating it takes a second for me to do it. But I had to enter that room with peace, blessings, and expansion, because that is what I do every day. It is a part of me, it is in my aura. And that was something, it was very difficult to do, to actually, here's my daughter, right? But let me tell you, I did. I kissed her hands and her feet when she came into this world, and I kissed her hands and her feet when she left. And she didn't really leave. So I'm just saying, that's dedication. That is walking this path with every single breath that we take. This is what, Andrea was speaking about. There's a difference. Some people can talk it, but they can't walk it. This is the walk.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I wanted to get to some hands. I want to get to Meta first, and then we'll hit Martin. And then I wanted also to share about the power of meditation. It's been proven also scientifically that, and you can look this up, I think it was in Washington, about a couple of thousand people sat and meditated, and the rate of basically crimes went down about 25 to 30%. This is no joke. We don't need arms to battle this out. We need to go within to battle this out. And yeah, we're all able to do it. But the other thing I know for a fact is that if you choose not to, eventually you'll be forced into, because the universe doesn't mess around. It's going to make you go there. Whether it's going to cause something drastic to happen in your life, it will make you go there. So you either choose it willingly or universe will make you go there even if you don't want to. So it's not even a choice. It needs to, it's calling us now. And if you're not aware of that, I guess you will be soon. It will awaken you. Go ahead, Nita.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with you. The journey is inward, most definitely. I think too many people have forgotten and they're looking around them for the answers. Uh, Shadowfox knows knows me, and the latest line that I always like to use, which is Alfred Korzybski's line, which is, "The map is not the territory." Because it's like a giant gong just goes off in my brain constantly. It's just such a beautiful statement to orbit around, because I realize that there's just so much illusion. um, I'm not much. I'm a spiritual person, but not a religious person. But I use the analogy of Eden, and Eden is in your mind, and we need to be mindful of the weeds or the maps that we have that creep in and laid foundations long ago, either through parents, society, through school, the many layers of these maps that are overlaid, that have divided us from who and what we really are. I just wrote down, it was like, who am I now? And what am I now? I think that people need to recognize that, each and every one of us is part of the universe, part of the flow. We are each drips in that river that is constantly flowing. And I think the major challenges of society are the maps. It's the certainty that's dividing us. It's subdividing our planet now. These wars that have been going on for millennia, of all these different nationalities, because it's national. And I look at it, the difference between 2D and 3D, and I joke about it and I say, if we had gills and fins, there'd be no national boundaries, and we would bound this sphere fully. And we're moving into spherical thinking. It's taking a long time to come to understand and fathom that. We're still holding on to all these nationalistic maps, which are not serving us, because we're still living within, you know, skin color boundaries, within national map boundaries, and all these flags, and celebrating this competition between each other. Sorry, but I think it's a whole load of, it's just again, drawing lines in the sand between. I look at it this way: drawing lines in the sand, between us and them, and it's creating a them, and we don't need them anymore. We need just an us, to realize it was us, it always was us, it will always be us, and we need to wake up. And I think that when we're drawing these lines, we're just creating this fear of a villain or a them, and I'm done with the them. We need to just find that again. But the journey, as you were mentioning, D, or was it UCV or Andrea? Sorry, I don't remember anymore. But it's a journey that's inward, and you have to find that out within each and every one of us has to come to understand that you have the power. The power is within each and every one of us, to realize that we are all seeds within the universe that need to bloom, and we'll bloom together, and we're gonna bloom. It's just that I look at it as, let go of the maps of certainty. It is sort of kind of strange to kind of let go and let God, because it is a blind faith of letting go. But when you do let go of the I, which is the ego, you become the I am, and you become the greater us, and you realize that you're a part of a greater whole. And it always had you, it will always have us, even after we pass. We're just passing through a different dimension of energies. And I think that's part of the great awakening and the great remembering. I think I was just afraid to remember. And I think that these are the things I asked myself, is this what we asked ourselves before we came into this world? We had to come into this world in which to share this information with those that are on the cutting edge of this, life's edge of this now event horizon. There is no past or future. It is a now event horizon, and as close to that horizon as you get. You're in the flow, and that's kind of the way I've been orbiting it. But yeah, I realize as I get older, the journey is inward. All the anger and frustration that it's just reflections of things that need to be worked through, either from a past life or from an early part within your childhood, whichever, that you needed to, the rights and the wrongs. It orbits, and the universe synchronizes you in an orbit, and you continue to kind of see those. I do anyway. When I look back now, when you sync with it, it kind of says, here it is again, and are you ready to kind of face it this time? And it waits patiently. It's a beautiful bloom that waits. So I think that's kind of where we're at now. Are we going to kind of move forward, let go of all these fearful maps, and stop acquiring things that are crazy? We can't acquire the water, the land. It's this insanity has gone on long enough, and we need to let go of that. That's how, to me, that's what I look at it. It's the maps, and it's this 2D thinking. And you have that's how I've been working through it, is understanding now that it's spherical. It was always spherical too, because when you look at it small, it's like the different protons, neutrons, electrons. You look at it at large scale, it's the planets, it's spheres. And this planet is, because most people look at it as, fire, water, earth, air. I use the Greek terms: asthenosphere, lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. And it's about the music of the spheres, and these are the constants that have gone on for 1 billion or so years, and will be going billions of years long after these forms that are listening to this right now have transformed. It's a music of the spheres, and that's the synchronization. I've been looking for that root of the root of the root, and that's what I find it is, those elements, and they tell the story. And the story goes on more. So I'll leave it from there. Thank you for letting me go on for a bit.
That was awesome. No, that was so great. It was like you were channeling right from the universe. It was beautiful. I also wanted to share, for these entities to have, fragmented us so much, for us to have forgotten who we truly are. We must hold some kind of power, huh? We must hold some kind of power that, they don't want us to understand. And so, yeah, what you just said, just like I could feel the energy right through my body. It's so powerful. Thank you so much. Martin, go ahead.
Oh, hang on. I want to come in. Sorry, Martin, because I just want to touch on D. Your mic's being weird again. I just want to touch on what he said, Meta, because he made a very profound point, which is he's exactly right. So everybody that's immersed in the political structures and the institutions and the monetary systems and the way of life and the medical system collapsing is missing the higher point. This is where we're moving, and this is what is going to be the consciousness or awareness in terms of living under. And so that was a key point for everybody in the room to realize that the higher view of what's happening right now is that all of these structures, so as the mental constructs come down, so do the physical constructs. Because remember, everything is a duality. So when you think about anything on this planet, it's two, always. You got 2 arms, 2 eyes. I could go on for a long, long time, but that would bore you. So you get my drift. We'll leave it there, because now I looked at Meta's thing again. Meta, when you talk about coming nationalities and stuff, you're not actually saying remove them and just get rid of all that and be one sort of being, are you?
All nationalities need to just respect each other, and
Right.
those
Okay.
nuances.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
the nationalities are they are beautiful languages, but we all have challenges listening to, because we're all conversing in English right now, and there are
Right. Well,
many people
just
probably in the room that use different language structures. I appreciate them, but I think we need to stop looking at the other as a divider and something foreign. Because when you let go of I and become I am, and you connect with the universe and you realize you're part of the universe, well, so is everybody else, and you have just as much justification as being in this life. And so do all the plants and animals and insects and everything else, and you have different respect and appreciation. Because I look at it as a lot of the problems right now, we've been just so programmed through the school systems to just look at I call it the human hurdle. We need to get over ourselves. We're so damn full of ourselves with thinking that we know. Sorry, I'm just speaking this metaphorically in that way, that we think we know. I don't even know who I am, because I've already changed. And I think that, you know, the marvels of all the different species on this planet that coexist, that's the maps that we need to get back into contact with. It's the
okay.
rhythms that so yeah, we need to let go of holding on to one specific and trying to convert one to become this particular nationality. That's what I meant by national boundaries, because that's where wars are created, because one is trying to consume another and to assimilate them. The assimilation process is ridiculous, because
Okay, let me
yeah,
let
but
me
if
okay,
that
let me
makes
come
sense.
in. Yeah, okay. So let me come back and put it in simple words. When you understand the dimension we live in, and I just explained it's a duality, then you understand that acceptance is one polarity and denial is another. And then you also understand that division is one side of a polarity and inclusion is the other side of the polarity. And as we expand in this sphere, we're being we're being called to realize that division is a necessity of our existence, and not division, but the different things that we are. Whether it's nationality, race, they're not relevant. They've been labeled to cause relevance and division. So that's a very important. We have to have those diversities. That, kids, is the word I am looking for. And so without those diversities, we'd be boring. But instead of enjoying those diversities, we've decided to create judgment and condemnation around those diversities, or then go and say that we're not equal to those diversities. And so that was a really good point. And when you guys talk about the chemicals and the minerals, and I just Meta, what a great thing when you said you can't water and minerals and right, like own all that or whatever you said there. That was brilliant. But the fact of the matter is, you guys were like they talk about the philosopher's stone, alchemy. Everybody wants to turn lead into gold. No, that's not what it is. The word precipitate, okay, precipitation, to precipitate means you're turning energy into matter. That's what an alchemist is. And we as beings are alchemists of the reality around us. And I love
Thank you.
now. Okay, that's it. I was just going to say, Annetta,
Thank
I liked your now event horizon. Go on. Sorry, my Shadowfox. Oh, well.
Yeah, let Martin go first, because after he speaks I can go, and then I'm gonna take my leave, okay?
Yeah.
So go ahead, Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now just scrub what I was going to say um, for politeness. Meta, I hope you find yourself. That'll be great. It's all about the reality is everybody has to be define themselves, and defining oneself is always a struggle, and it's always hard. And when you thought you have figured out yourself or you define yourself, it changes, and you need to improve it. And you can't move on with answers. You can't solve things if you haven't been solving things for yourself, and dealing with reality with yourself. It's and then it's about being honest. It's being honest that the person you look in the mirror is that person, and that person sadly at times has to deal with issues and the reality it is. In Shadowfox, I feel beyond sorry how you what your experience with your daughter. It's I understand the pain, the loss of a daughter, a family. It just it's hard. It's very hard. As I say, going back to uh, my parents, and um, my mom got in an accident. She was my last member of my family, and my parents and I were very close, and my mom and I were extremely close, and um, I was able to get where I was from through many hoops um, to reach my mom in the hospital, and it was just her and me for the final times. The greatest time I would say in my life, and I could achieve anything, and those achievements could not compare to being on the bedside, sitting across from my mom, each of us looking us in our eyes. Uh, my mom calling me my son, and my mom, and to say goodbye. But there's no goodbye because they're always with you, and that's what you have to do is keep people with you. You never let them go. And when people talk about people in the past tense, I try not to. I try to keep them as they're here. They're here in many different forms. Um, it's so important um, that we care about people. Uh, Times are short, times are long, but when we just care, and I think it all comes down to caring, you know. I wish I could have just a second my mom yelling at me, and that'd be the greatest thing. And I've told many people, and I would give anything. But we all must care for each other. We must improve each other, and we must not stop giving up on humanity. And humanity is just not the person in your country; it's the people around. It's when people are negative about immigrants. Be positive because most of us are. We're not of the land, other than those that were there way before us, and that's their land. And it's being honest with oneself. And you know, when I had to let my mom go, it was great. We were both at peace, and I said to myself, "I have no regrets." But I'm wrong. I listen to everybody. I'm wrong. My regret is that I don't have my parents, or some of us don't have our loved ones. And that I wish I and we could replace. And to everybody, my intentions are always good. If I come off wrong, I apologize. I'm just me. I don't try and be something I'm not. And Dee, thank
Thank
you.
you, Martin. Thank you. Blessings, Martin.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
bless. Yeah, there's just, a couple of things I just would like to say because, Mark Meta, he made some phenomenal points. And he's a very good friend of mine. I mean, I love when he speaks. We kind of follow each other around, So if you're unfamiliar with him, he's wise beyond his years, let's just say. And, I would like to say that, and this is a teaching from the indigenous culture, okay? Because Mark was making a mention of, everything being within, a circle. Well, take a look at nucleus and atoms and everything. In the indigenous communities, our communities are built within a circle. All right, so there's actually three people that have, let's just say, they're like the end result of a decision making based upon the entire community. There are three. It would be that of the chief. It would be that of a medicine man or woman, and it would also be that of a, a religious, like a pipe carrier. All right, that would be like a priest. Okay, it would be a comparable because they carry the prayers of the entire community. And if you think about it, those three together, it may look like a triangle, but it is not. It is literally a circle because it's an unfoldment branching out like a ripple effect from the very center carries three. And in the universe, and this is where, like in this 2D world, we will definitely have, the duality, male, female, night, day, good, bad. But from the cosmos, it is always three. There are three cosmic laws. From those three cosmic laws, everything branches out. And so when you take a look at societies or government structures or anything else like that, it is built upon a triangle. That at the top and those at the bottom. This is what will be transforming. This is the paradigm shift. This is what meta, this is what Mark was speaking about in and of itself. I'm just giving another perspective. I'm giving another idea of working with it. Um, so when we take a look at in our society and where we're looking at going and being loving and compassionate and no borders and da 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 da, well, guess what? It would be that of that ripple effect. And guess what? That is a circle. It is inclusive. It is exclusive. It is that within. It is that without. It is the omega. It is the alpha. It is the macro, the micro. It is all encompassing. And so, with that, I just had to share that because I love when Mark speaks because it's like, oh my gosh, I love it, I love it, I love it. But I would like to make a mention very briefly, and this is, for Martin, this is, something that perhaps you can take a look at in your own journey if it's something that you choose to go with, okay? Because there was something that you had said was that when someone passes or crosses, you hold on to them and you don't let them go. In the way my structure is, and for my journey, it was always to be able to let them go because that's the hardest thing. It's kind of like ownership. And I know Andrea would really be able to speak upon this in a much grander way just because I'm going to be leaving. It is, we love them. It's kind of like, I always viewed it like, okay, they're getting on an airplane and they're going to go to the, Spirit University and learn. So they're going, and all of a sudden we're running down the tarmac and we're hanging on to them saying, no, you don't go, don't go. And we're pulling off their luggage and their baggage and everything. The point being is the hardest thing for us is to be able to step in and give that allowance for them to actually journey on because there's a grander, so much more on the other side that can ever be here. And so for me, I am the complete opposite from that. I understand it. Trust me, I know where you're coming from. But for me, it was always the exact opposite. The hardest thing for me to do was to recognize my daughter's decision and to abide by it. What was I going to do? Change it? Okay, so therefore, it was for my own let's just say, my own mental health, emotional health, and my heart health. And so for me, it was completely opposite of holding on to them, because they do have to journey. And I don't own my daughter. I only shared an experience with her for a very short time. This is a different octave from what many of us have come to understand. And this is what Meta was talking about when we have our maps and our programs and everything else. But I am going to take my leave. I do apologize. And Diana is in here. Hi, Diana. She's a sweetheart, by the way, guys. But my study, since I've been 6 years old, and I had made a mention of it, that I have never seen the world the way everybody else does, because I was privy to what happens on the other side. And this is something from, let's just say, experience that I come forward with. So I am going to be taking my leave. I send love and honor and everything to each and every one of you. I love you guys, and I'll hang out for just a minute, but I really do have to take leave.
Yeah, thank you, Firebird. Thank you, Shadowfox. I'm so happy you made it here, and I'm really honored and really, really honored. I'm so blessed to have you around and in our lives to share all your knowledge. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Ditto.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, really. And for everybody in the room, new to the room, we're a bunch of different people sharing our experiences and how we came to this knowledge and awareness. Call it what you want, way to live. But Martin, I will come. I know you might want to say something before she leaves, but
Can I just say one more thing,
Sure.
Andrea? I would love for everyone to share the room if possible. That would be great. Thank you, because we did get cut off the last time.
Yeah.
I will
Go
after.
ahead.
I will just. I Shao Fox. I understand you. 1,000,000%. And and the release, yes, in that sense, yes, but you never want to part in any way. As your daughter will always be there, and I can tell you, she is. She's there, and you can sense it, and you know that, and I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
tell you, right?
Love will never stop.
No, but she's there. Like my parents are, like my mom's there. I mean, yes, you want their spirit, but the thing is, but the presence is different, and that's the love too. I believe that they have for those others too, and and the reason why I say I don't want to let her go is that because my parents have always been an important part of my life, um, as your family is, and you just um, want them to be there for every walk and every breath you take. And you know what? They are. And it goes to show the good people that we are, that we give true, honest love and willing to share that with everybody. And and I guess we all want others to do the same thing. And that's an important thing that not only in people in the room is that love will always trump hate. And thank you.
So, Martin, are you open to kind of? I think this would be. I don't know if you girls mind quickly. Well, it won't, might not be very quick, but for everybody in the room, I think this is a really good. If Martin is willing to kind of work through some of this.
Sure.
Shadow Fox, honey, did you want to say something?
Yes, very quickly. And again, Diana, I'm I'm so sorry. I know I have to leave, but
No, you're a wonderful person. You are.
Yeah, thank you. One thing I'd just like to say very quickly that I had forgotten, and I think Paul Sisler would like. Anyway, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Paul and he's going to do like an interview with me. We're setting a thing up. It's going to be called The Flow. I will be posting it when he is getting stuff ready. That's why I have to leave, because we have to have a discussion real quick. Once he gets all of that set up, he's running it through StreamYard. It's going to probably be running through Twitter or whatever. I know it's his YouTube channel. So if anyone is interested, um, we're going to kind of be speaking about the flow. And I think he's going to pick my brain. So I just
That's so
thought I'd say,
great.
yeah, yeah. So, and Paul Sisler, he's got a lot of different people on board in many different areas
Hmm.
that he's going to be holding discussions. So I just thought I would put that out.
Yeah.
I'll be posting it shortly.
Okay,
But
perfect.
but that's why I have to leave. I'm so sorry, guys.
Okay, I get it what it's like to prep for stuff to happen, so I totally get you. Yeah, please send it over to me and I will send it out to my whole list.
You called me here.
Awesome. Thank you. I know I did, but that was when we started the room.
I'm sorry, you're right. It took me a while.
Okay, let me come back to Martin. So in the room, we're talking about and trying to sort of bring ourselves into awareness of these constructs or the conditioning and sort of how it's sort of running our experience, rather than just having a pure thoughts of happy joyness, moving about, enjoying the world. So Martin's willing. He said he was willing. Heart us, Martin, if you're still willing. And I think there's an important aspect of what he said and what Shadowfox and him were conversing about. He made a point of saying, let them go. You can see the difference in perspective between the two of them, because Shadowfox, if I may's perspective, is the understanding that experience isn't hers to condition. The expanded understanding of transition is the acceptance of that person and that experience, and anything else that goes forward in that experience with you on the planet in the loss of those people is only held because you hold an expectation for what could have been there or what would come. And in that attribute, that's where the not letting go is. When you're sitting in missing them, then that understanding isn't in your awareness. And that's the letting go piece, because there's still a heaviness in holding on. Because energy never dies, and we know that. And we don't ever have to have a thought about it. If somebody from a higher octave wants to communicate with you, they'll communicate with you. So that's really when we see the difference between, I'm trying to get this concise, the difference between Shadowfox and Martin's perspective is one sees it as a loss and one stands in acceptance of the situation. I wouldn't say it would be a gain, because I would not want to say that. But you see what I'm saying. And so it's very crucial that when you look at what I'm saying, then you can apply the letting go to those attributes in your own life, or those expectations you set for yourself, or the conditional thinking or conditions you put yourself under. Now, I'm not saying, eat chocolate bars every day and don't ever apply yourself to eating salad. You get my point. So Martin, again, when we're talking about shifting paradigms and shifting belief structures, and then we peel it down to you got to have words to have belief structures, then where you end up in looking at some of the things, right? So you made a comment and you said stuff to deal with issues. But again, if you stand outside of it and you monitor the words you use, when you say deal with issues, what it's actually saying is, I have issues to deal with. And there's a heaviness to that. It seems like a burden to work through. But you have a choice to make it heavy, or you have a choice to make it light. And when you stand in Shadowfox's experience, then and you have that expanded awareness and understanding, you can see how quickly the heavy can go away, right? And then you made a comment about find oneself. It's always hard, but again, the perspective you've got is work, so it's heavy again, right? There's a load there you're carrying. Because would I say finding yourself is hard? Well, if you want to ignore yourself and keep tripping over yourself, then yeah, I'd say it's hard. But if you understand that the journey, see, for us to understand, you have to understand you've been conditioned and you're trying to break out of conditioning. And then there becomes an acceptance in it. So I guess what I'm looking for to tell you is to craft the place that you can find acceptance. And you can comfortably remove yourself from a belief structure in the knowing of it, so that was your parents' journey. They've left. They're still walking with you for sure. And you're not going to live in a loss or a state where you're trying to work out of that grief, if you will. To be in the grief and walk in the grief at some level becomes a choice. We've been conditioned that we would carry grief because that would show respect for the death. But again, I would argue that that's a construct we need to eliminate, because it puts a heavy burden on the human being.
Yeah, but I'm not saying, I never said I'm grieving.
No, I know,
my
but
mom. Yeah. What I'm saying is that, and you're missing everything. I'm saying that I want my parents, and they're there. They're there. Okay. Spirit wise, the soul, but they are always with me, and they're always with whoever wants them. You don't, you want to let them go and you're done. That's fine. Okay. But there's a lot of people that are comfortable or is comforting that they're not gone, and they're not gone. But that's always everybody's different interpretation. And when I talk about finding oneself, I'm far from confused. Believe me, we're always improving ourselves. If you're totally improved, then maybe you should do self-checking, because nobody is completely improved, because we are always trying to make ourselves better, because that's always a challenge in life, is to not only improve yourself, have other people improve you. Okay.
Well, okay. I
have
hold on.
Listen, I have all the confidence in myself. Believe me. But what I'm trying to say is, nothing's perfect, and nothing will be. And when you're dealing with things, you have to deal with them directly. There's no way that you can make it easy when something you have to do is hard. And the hard decisions is why you're in those positions. And the whole thing, comes down to one thing. And I said again, we all must love one another, or do our best to understand. But it's we all have our own interpretations and our own ways, and I think that's what's the makeup of being human, because we're perfectly imperfect, and I think that's what God wants us to be, and the challenges that we'll always have. But I think we should just be kind, and that's all.
And I agree. I think you kind of misunderstood. When I say let them go, I don't mean let them go like let them go. I mean, if I had a video, I could show you the pictures of all the people that have left me that are on my board in front of me. My wall of masters, they're all dead. But that's not really what I meant by letting go. I meant letting go it's letting go it's the acceptance part. So I'm sorry, that's not where I was trying to take that. But I would have to argue that we already are perfect beings.
No, we're not.
Well,
We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Martin,
We're perfect imperfect. Because if you're perfect, then you're really kidding yourself. Because mankind will never be perfect. We're always trying to be perfect, but that can never be achieved. And maybe there's a reason for that. But nobody is perfect. And if you're perfect, then you're living in the perfect world, which isn't this. Honestly.
So I would ask you not to interrupt me if you don't mind. I'm actually trying my very best to share an awareness and expand consciousness and move out of the current structures. You have I have mine. I never said but you have to understand, to expand the consciousness and the awareness of who we are, these are the kind of constructs we have to work together at, and we have to work together at them in a cohesive way. And so to understand that if you understand mind presence, then in mind presence, your awareness is wellness and I don't want to use the word perfect. I want to use the word ease. I want to use the word efficient and comfortable and gentle. Those are words I would use. So I would argue that the construct they've set up for us is that we have to work at ourselves. We have to know ourselves. And the reason it's work is because we don't know ourselves and we're tripping over ourselves with all the propaganda and the shiny objects that we're not actually discovering ourselves. And if we did that, then we would have a much easier path on our planet. And so when I come back to you, I was not at any level, please, trying to be I'm observing your words. So if we understand that words make the experience because they have to have some kind of congruent fabric of vibration, which creates synergy like playing a guitar, then when I look at the words you use, the words tell me the story. So I can see the story in the words that you choose to use. So that's really what I wanted to point out was the perception of something being hard makes it hard. The perception of something being a loss makes it heavy. And so we're trying to take it beyond the thinking and congruent system we've lived in and develop this new way to manage and see ourselves in the world, to be able to observe ourselves so that we can notice we use this language. So we had a conversation, a friend and I, the other day, and that friend said to me, I go, what are you up to? And they said, oh, I'm doing this, doing that, and I'm just creating this thing, for creating my abundance. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, I'm working on creating my abundance. And I said, well, if you're working on creating your abundance, then what that tells me is that in the background, you don't believe you have abundance. And if we understand the congruent existence that we're living in, we must come to understand that we first must believe who we are before we can be it. And this is the space and time of these rooms so that we can encourage these expansions, bring these self-awarenesses to ourselves. And Martin, don't kid yourself. I've been through a meat grinder and back. And no, but I would say that we all are perfect in our own way, but discovering our own perfection that is the key to the beautiful existence that we were all meant to be here and have on the planet. So please, thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to that, and I'll let Dee take over.
Thank you. CV, I know you've been waiting a long time. Go ahead, CV, then Diana, and then Taylor. Hi, Taylor.
Awesome. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do this because there's stuff happening in the future in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
but that's fine. I just want to share my story, and it's my perspective. By the way, perspectives are like fingerprints and fractals. That's one of my sayings. And I recently lost my dad. I mean, I didn't lose him, but I lost him in the physical sense. But he's still here. And he had a beautiful transition. His eyes were bright and blue. He was shining all around. He was looking out the window. And before that happened, he had some visitations. A couple of people visited him a couple of different times and had conversations with him. And before he left here, I was right there with him. And he tells me at the very last, his last words were, "I'm leaving now." And I go, "Have a great journey, Dad." And I gave him a hug. And he went out of his body. So, but he has always been with me, just like my mother has been, because I have been to the other side and I know what's there. And I know how close we are. It's just a breath away, really. Anyway, I have to go now. Thank you.
Thank you, CV. Diana, hi.
Hi, it's nice to see everyone. Thank you for letting me speak. I won't be long. I've lost my father 2019. I'm a caregiver for my mother 24/7, and I expect that she's not going to be with us much longer. And I'm ready for that, I think. I mean, you're never completely ready when you lose a parent. But one thing I keep thinking about is the fact that in this life, they are put up on this parental pedestal, if you will. And the fact is that spiritually speaking, they're our brothers and sisters. They're not our parents. They're not on this different pedestal. We are very much equal in that we are all the children. There's one thing I think I may have it right, that you're coming from the perspective of of your belief system. You know, the Christian belief system. I believe in Christ. Don't get me wrong. I was raised cradle Catholic, and there is still some of that belief system that I maintain and hold on to. One thing that Christ said, if I may meet you where that is that the kingdom of heaven is within. Okay, we in spirituality say there is more within than there is without. All of everything is within us and without. So there's that as well. So you can go within to be with them, to have that time with them, because that's where they are too. And I'll also say, in regards to perfection, yes, no, Creator did not make anything imperfect, but we did get free will, which leads to imperfection. And also, the other aspect of something that I wanted to say was about, I'm going to bring this up in a minute, I promise you, brain is still working. The idea that we, as human beings, are all part of everything, because before the universe ever was, God, Creator, is. Therefore, it was all created within Creator. We are all walking around. That means heaven and this existence. That means the other side of the veil and this side of the veil. And it's transparent. I haven't seen it. I've not been there. But it's transparent right now. And this I know from multiple people who have been there. And their stories are not your typical looking down this dark hallway and you see a light at the end. It's not like that. Their experiences are very descriptive of so many facets to what the other side is like. And so I'm going to, I still think about my father, but when I do, I go within me and say hello. and hope and wish him well, and that he's having a good journey on that side and experiencing the wonder that there is over there. I will do the same for my mother. And I celebrate them because this was the thing I was going to break down real fast. This life is a drop in the bucket to the ocean of existence of our souls. So we're not far apart for very long.
Thanks.
You.
That was great.
Go
Sorry,
ahead,
Dee, go
Taylor.
ahead.
Thanks, Taylor.
Or did you call me?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yeah. So, hi. So my belief system came from having the most profound experience when praying to the God Abraham. Other than that, and just getting on a quest of knowledge, reading reading about how Solomon's temple was built, reading about the testimony of Solomon, and some of the prophecies that came true about God actually walking as man here, and many prophecies came true. Original versions too of these texts came true. So yeah, in my quest for knowledge, and I've gone on a search for knowledge in every which way, in every direction, not just in one way. I've looked at different religions, I've looked at different belief systems, and none other hold up. So I was gonna ask, looking at the title of the room, how do you know what is a human construct and what is not?
Dee, you or me?
Go ahead, Andrea.
So can I ask you to define, just sort of sharpen up that question for me? So what is a human construct? So define human construct. What's your perception of that?
Something that was only made up by humans and not divinely inspired.
Oh, there you go. There's your answer. You answered your own question. So which I thought you could, from everything you just did, and welcome, and very nice to meet you. And so what would I define as a human construct? I would define, when I say construct, whether it be human construct, well, I guess we're all human, right? Because I'm considering the ones that we make for ourselves as well, but the ones that men make, that we have to, you're asking me literally. Oh, I'm hearing what you're asking me. Okay, you want literal. Got ya. So the medical system, that in my perception is a construct made up by man. The actual paradigm that a human comes to the earth and can be sick and then is treated by a Medicare system, that is a construct made up by man. Because wellness is nowhere near there. And so, that's a whole nother conversation about how to obtain it, but that would be one construct. This one no one will like, but I'll tell you anyway. Monogamy. It's a human construct. It serves. Now, I'm not saying I'm for or against, okay? It's full disclosure, but it is a good example. Just hold on with me. And I also want everybody to be an observer, or the rushes you all got of your perceptions on when I said that. Okay, very important to pay attention to that. So I will go back. Monogamy is a construct made up by man. It serves insecurity and discomfort. And yeah, that's what it does. And so fine, be monogamous if you're comfortable in it, right? But it really is a construct made up by man, made up by religion. I don't know who made it up, but somebody here made it up. Because it isn't freedom. Freedom, to me, the word freedom is a construct created because we're already free. It's only the man who tells us we're not. Is that enough examples? Would you like more?
Sorry, I was drinking water. So how do you know that your belief system is in human construct?
Dee, you want to take that?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to I wanted to speak more about construct and how it it's almost like I see a snake strangling something rather than it being open to your own internal innate process. Of course, we've been constructed. Our whole environment has been constructed. But the point of this whole conversation is how do we take those constructs down and become more of our authentic self? So we're living in a constructive environment, constructed in every single shape or form. So how do we know? Well, you have to look inside to know that. And, I've done a lot of my own internal work to know that I've been constricted in every single shape, way, or form and want to get out of that. It just doesn't feel good. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like you don't belong. It feels like there's something holding you where you cannot be yourself. That's what the construct does. That's how you feel it. There's a sensation around it. There's finding answers doesn't come only from knowledge and reading a book. It comes from acknowledging and going within and knowing that there's more knowledge within you and everything we need to know is inside of us and it doesn't come from a book. I think more than that.
Right. Absolutely. But if we were created, wouldn't we want to understand that creator?
Yeah, but what book is going to tell you about that, Taylor?
Well, I can give her an example. Can I clarify something, Taylor?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's clarify this. Your question to me was how do I know my belief system? Did you use the word right? What did you say?
I think I said was a human construct. How do you know it's not a human construct?
Oh, you did say that. Very good. Thank you. And so how do I know it's not a human construct? Because everything that I am and have become, I have learned from working the knowledge. So the inspirations I've had as a child, walking on the planet horrified about how humans interacted as a little child. And my question started from there. I remember clearly at 10 years old, it was always, but it really was around that 8 to 10 years old. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? So I've built my knowledge through asking a question and then being presented an answer. Whether they presented it to me vibrationally and I heard it or saw it or felt it, whether they presented it to me in a book or on a TV thing, like I'd get it somewhere in a song, the energy would be there and I'd catch it. Now, please keep in mind that I'd come in at a little bit of a different vibration, clearly. Okay. So I want to go back to how do I know? I know through application. And I will explain that a bit to you. There's a difference between when you say the belief system, okay, the belief structure. So for you to believe what I'm telling you, okay, that's a choice. You're choosing to believe what I tell you. What we do and all the ones that are well versed in this practice would say is it's actually an acquired wisdom. Those are two totally different things. So I'm speaking from actual application. So I don't believe in what I do, if you will. Thank you. It's a knowing. Sorry, honey. That's where I was trying to get. It's a knowing. Sorry, Taylor. I couldn't find the word. And that would be the construct and all that we would look now at tearing down, right? And noticing that. So sorry. I hope I answered your question.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Taylor. C.V., go ahead.
Oh, I lost it. I went on to some other thinking and the construct thing is an interesting perspective. Also, I think that, like I said before, perspectives are like fingerprints and fractals. Everyone has a perspective on something, and they're all individual, and they can go anywhere, and they can go a long ways. Constructs are like bricks that hold me down, apparently. And if I don't want something to hold me down, then maybe I should figure out a way to get out of that box. And you can't put God in a box. So therefore, I'm not going to be in a box. Anyway, that was a stream of consciousness just now. And that's all that was. Thank you.
That's perfect.
That was great.
Diana, go ahead.
One of the things I noticed as I've been going into the spirituality path is how synonymous so much of it is with a lot of the stuff that Christ said. There are literally so many parallels where I can draw between, just the true, the words that Christ gave as a master of all of this, of all spirituality. He knew. And the thing is, what he said versus what is. And Christ wasn't the only one. Elijah, you can go back through, and Buddha, and there are, in every belief system, the main focus, the main import that they want to depart to everyone or impart on everyone is love. That's the highest frequency that we can go to. That's the highest frequency we can operate from. Now, when you talk about constructs, it would be that you would have to qualify that or give rules to it. Love doesn't need rules, because when you act from love, you are already doing everything that is good. There's nothing inside of love, inside the action and the state of loving, that can be bad or malicious or have malintent. And again, I will go back to the free will statement in that, mankind made the world through free will, chose to live in a lower frequency eons and eons and eons ago. And it's just sort of steamrolled. And it's become what we live in right now, where so many different belief systems have this set of rules. And the one thing that keeps getting imparted by the wise ones that have come after the rules were set in place said, love. Love doesn't need rules. It just doesn't.
I was going to say earlier, I've been trying to say this all night because I'm kind of half in and half out. If anybody wants to ask a question, if you can DM or you can put it in that thread if you don't want to come up and speak. But, we would like to hear. Here. Pardon?
We have someone come up. Inanna?
Can you not hear me, Dee?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was just telling everybody if they wanted to ask a question and they didn't want to take a mic, they're welcome to either DM or put it in the thread. And if anybody else wants to come up and speak. And I was just going to comment on Deanna, what she had said. Sorry, did I say your name right, honey? I'm so sorry. Yeah, I did.
It's okay.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
I just wanted to comment because as Diane, as she was speaking, I was just sort of thinking about what we were just talking about. And I know the application of sort of understanding this or coming into a way that you can utilize it in your own life is completely independent. And that's why the application is so important, because the riddle of all of this really is, until you actually start being mindful of some of the stuff we're talking about, and then putting it into use, only then will you actually craft this out for yourself. And so wherever you fall, right, like Taylor had a long thing of lists that she looked into and dipped and dived around in and got to a place where she felt comfortable. And so we want to understand that that structure, like CV was saying, that was sort of built by man. Here's these rules, and this is what you would do. We're trying to call awareness to the fact that it's just innate. We all do it, and it really is clicking into your intuition. And so, okay, if we look at it quickly like this, if we bring ourselves inside of ourselves, we learn how to be grounded. We learn we understand the power of the mind so that we want to control that tool, and that we look for and find the highest thought all the time, which is equal to Diana saying love. Okay, because really you're finding the highest thought when you're tuning your instrument, you're putting it in key. When you're conditioning your thinking, you want to tune it to the highest thought. Okay, and then it's called love. And I get it, but I do find people they trip around that, because then they have to find the meaning of what love means. And what you want to know is you want to tune to the highest thought of anything. So even if you get hit with something horrific, if you can say to yourself, okay, it's okay, just take a breath, I'm going to be okay, I need a minute to kind of regroup, let me just take this in, right? You're finding the highest thought. And so really the riddle becomes putting these practices in play, and then only for you will you find that thing that's going to work. But if you don't put in the application, you're going to be stumbling through all kinds of stuff forever, reading whatever, doing whatever, and paying for a lot of classes is all I'm really saying. Okay, I'm done now, guys.
Awesome. Thanks. Thank you, Andrea, so much. Inanna, go ahead.
I like what Andrea said about paying for the classes, because I don't pay for shit. I don't pay someone else to tell me who I am. You know what I'm saying? We find that within ourselves. We find that when we go towards what feels good to us and what puts us in the space where we feel free, right? Because I believe that freedom is spirit. Spirit, it cannot be put in a box, cannot be contained, cannot be understood with the our finite thinking. It just is, right? And when you find yourself in a space where you're free within your mind, free within your heart, and you have freedom with your body, and your soul, I think that that's what everyone is going for. That's what we all seek. We seek that ultimate freedom, right? Whether we call it love or bliss or ecstasy, samadhi, whatever you want to call it, whatever name you want to give it whatever name you want to give it. Doesn't matter, as long as it feels like freedom for you. You know, you cannot, no one else can define your freedom, right? No book can define your freedom. No psychic, nor no life coach, no healer can define your freedom, because it is yours. It is yours to define, because we are all like living expressions of the divine, expressing itself subjectively, right? So we're given this ultimate power to define what that is for ourselves individually. Dee's freedom doesn't look like Inanna's freedom, right? Dee's freedom may feel like a cage for me, but that's her freedom. That's her tune. That's her frequency. That's her sound of music. My sound of music, my tune, my frequency may look totally different than Dee's. I can look at Dee's freedom and say, girl, you free over there? And she was like, yes, Nana, I am free. I was like, if you like it, I love it. Right? But it may not be mine, because it's not mine. It's hers. It's her expression of her divine sovereignty. And so that's what I will go for. I mean, we call it love, like I said, samadhi, bliss, ecstasy, all these different things, flow, whatever the case may be. But if it feels like freedom, if I can just glide, right, in my life, that's freedom. I might, catch a wave. I might get crashing, like Andrea said, just sit back and relax and say, okay, I just got a oops upside the head. It's okay, right? I'm not complete. I'm not finished. I can catch another wave going out, right? There's always another wave coming. And if I'm patient enough with myself, I can be cool in that path, in that journey, in that discovering of my own freedom. And I yield the mic.
Thank you so much, Inanna. It's so funny. You just reminded me of, like, I created, like, when I was younger, like Andrea, I felt like I didn't belong. Like, I was like, when am I going to get out of this school thing? And when am I going to get out into the real world and get out there and discover and be out there? And I ended up creating a job for myself, which was a trainer in an airline. So I could be free, which is kind of interesting. So I could try, like, that's how my freedom showed up. And when that ended, and I had to stop and look at myself because it was no longer there. So, yeah, defining your freedom is really interesting, but again, defining it with what, how are we defining our freedom? I defined it with my travel and being all over the world and all over the place. But when it stopped, yeah, it was intense. It was the most transformational time of my life because I had to go within and really do all the work that I was avoiding because I was leaving and getting pack my. I wouldn't even leave with bags. I wouldn't even pack my bags. I'd just get on planes and go because I worked for an airline. I travel here. I travel there. I'd be all over the place. But yeah, it was very interesting how that manifested and what happened after I stopped and landed. Let's put it that way. And came back to the ground and had to look at myself. So it was very powerful experience and a really great one to share. Taylor, go ahead.
So with the freedom, that's a very interesting point. Something that people might deal with, like, what if somebody's freedom is like, they and I don't know how else to say it, but what if somebody's freedom is to rape somebody else? Like, what if they want to hurt somebody? Like, then what would you say about in that case?
Shall I? Dee, can you believe this just came up?
Or any type of form of hurting others. People do have the urges to do that.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so first, full disclosure, you have to understand the perspective that I live in, which is nothing's nothing till you make it something. And the only way we have a something is when we make it that something. So if you understand the universe and you understand creation and precipitation, like we talked about earlier, and Taylor, you weren't in the room for that, but what it means is we live in an energetic sphere. The energy is always vibrating, and I'm going to give simple terms, okay? It's moving around. It goes out like here we go. They're giving me a nice example. When I throw a stone into a pebble into the lake, it makes a ripple, right? This is moving other energy to move other things. So what you have to understand is that in the construct that we live in, when your beacon is sending out fear for a specific, when you fear something, then you're actually calling that experience to you. And that's a big thing to get your head around in perception shifting 101 over here. But it's a true story and we have to learn it and understand it. So when you're in fear of something or in concern for it, or it's any consideration in your focused awareness, you must realize that you are creating momentum to bring that experience towards you. So when you ask that question, I would firstly say, of course, that's a disconnect, okay? But if we understand we live in a sphere that is infinite and that anything we create must materialize, then we have to have the duality of good and bad. All right, if you will. And I don't like using those words, but you get my drift.
Well, so, what about
okay, hear me out. Let me finish. Let me finish. So the only way that happens is that the person's living in fear, and you can't say they aren't, because they are definitely 1000% are.
What about
Either
a baby?
well, but you have to give me an example, right? And you have to understand, you when you ask these finite questions, then what it imposes is that the world becomes finite. And you must understand that we can't understand as Inanna, I'm sorry, please forgive me if I say your name wrong, I'll learn. Said, okay, we're never understanding the experiences meant for other people. And that's what we're trying to do here. We pay no attention to who we are, and we pay attention to what everything is going on around us and in everybody else's life. And we try to understand what is happening for them, but that's not possible. And so the call that we're moving towards when we talk about breaking all this stuff down, one of them is that to expand our consciousness and awareness to understand that that's actually not possible. And so it's best to just get right out of it. So if you talk about a child, that child likely is here for the experience of the adult or whatever is going around. So right, it's not so finite. You follow me? And our world isn't constructed. Okay, so say whatever, there's an experience and there's a baby or whatever, but our world isn't constructed. We would say these things are not joyous and they aren't fulfilling, but in a higher perception, you would understand that there would definitely be purpose for the experiencer. And that's something that we can't understand. We can't ever know that. I hope that made some sense. I'm going to stop rambling now.
Thank you, Andrea.
I have someone say, usually when I start asking questions like that, Taylor, when you ask that question, if I ask a question, I have to make sure and be very careful how I want the answer to come in. Because I don't want to necessarily have the experience of it in order to totally understand the question that I asked. And so that question that you asked, maybe you, for me, if I ask that question, I probably wouldn't ask that question because I don't want to know the answer to that question. But I think I do know anyway something about it. Somebody who has a propensity to be a rapist, that's their thing. And, I choose not to be in their realm. That's my thing to start with, but it's their experience and I don't want to have anything to do with their thing and their experience. So I try to stay away from stuff like that as much as possible. And in my realm, I try to make my realm how I want my realm to be. Now, my house is a mess and I still have to clean it up, but I've been working outside in my yard and my garden. But honestly, I created a space for my dad to be comfortable in the last days of his life so that he wouldn't live looking out a picture window with half of his body paralyzed. So I rehabbed him and got his brains back so he could get his driver's license back and get his dementia diagnosis rescinded. And that he could drive himself then to the restaurant to get his own breakfast if he felt like it. So, constructs and what we do to create our own realities. Well, sometimes we're stuck in places like I have been stuck a little bit, but I don't feel like I was ever stuck. I felt like it was a blessing to me to be where I am because of whatever it was I was supposed to do. Because obviously there's things I'm still supposed to be doing, and that's why I'm here. But, back to that thinking again, I just I don't like asking those kind of questions. And as a matter of fact, I know that I can get the answers if I ask for them. But a long time ago, this is how I always did it. And I always prefaced it with certain conditions in my question asking. Because I didn't want to ask the wrong the question the wrong way and get an answer, because you always get the answer. You just might not like the answer that you're getting because the question wasn't prefaced the way it should have been, probably. And based on my own emotional input to it also. Also, one other thing. Let me just go off on this tangent real quick. Emotional alchemy. That's just kind of a real big deal for me. I like that. And I like infiltrating the matrix with energy. We should just go do that. I think that's more fun. I like to play in the matrix. As a matter of fact, if you look at the air between you and the wall in a dark room, I bet you could see the light in it. And and that's the matrix. We're swimming in it. And I think we should just play. We're adults, I know that.
Well, they wait, CV. They first they have to they give them some time to get there.
Oh, okay. Well, it's so much fun.
I know it is.
Okay.
I know it is, but we have to remember, let just give them their space to let, like someone Taylor figure it out, sort of. I love that she's asking these hard questions, and I'm hoping she's getting answers to them, right?
Well, let me just say this. When I ask the question, I go, okay, I want to know what the answer is without me having to go through the experience of whatever it was I was asking about. Because I just want the answer without having any pain attached to it. Because I got really tired of having pain attached to my lessons that I had to learn. So I decided I would be more compliant and more listening and more understanding. So,
well, and that's why they say watch what you wish for, right? And you bring up an excellent point, CV, and you actually made the point, which is, D, your mic's on. You actually made the point and you brought it all home really well, because that is the whole point, is that we are swimming in it. It's the air we breathe. That's where all the knowledge is. And that's why being in your breath and learning how to use it and connect and bring it down deep is so important, because it opens those chakras and then it lets your energy actually flow, and you actually have that congruent essence of energy flowing through you. But the rounded up point was, we live in an ask and receive universe. And so what you're not seeing is that when you fear something or consider its lack of or worry for, you're actually asking to, you're calling it to, you're asking to have the experience. You're creating the experience. And that is a crucial point for everyone to start to really get their head around, right? So thanks, CV.
Right. I don't fear the experience. I was just kind of wondering about your ideologies.
Yeah, but you're asking the question, right? And that's what they're responding to.
Well, and the ideology, it's, dear Mike, it's not really an ideology, though. That's the separation I'm trying to make. The separation I'm trying to make is that this is who we are as beings. So when you practice it and you live in it, and so Taylor, what if I told you that everything I know I didn't read in a book? I didn't go to a class. Right?
I would say that's kind of like the Watchers coming down teaching us.
Well, and so that's the point, right? So Jesus came to the ground. We can have some fun if you want. Meaning, it isn't about religion, and Jesus was a man, and there was a point to it, and there was a message in it, to keep it short and concise. And Dee's giving me hearts for doing that. So the reality is it isn't an ideology. It's actually an understanding that has been laid out for millennia in a bazillion different ways and modalities that humans can't conceptualize because they don't apply the application to it. And that's the hard knock truth. And for somebody like me, because I am who I am, and I'm constantly communicating, you just know, you begin to trust and know its existence. And then you figure out there's a quickening to it. Okay. So the more clear your thoughts become, the quicker your reality manifests. Okay. What slows it down is, oh, I'd like to buy those shoes. Oh, but I don't have any money, and I can't do this, and I won't do that, and it shouldn't look like this. That just slows it right down. But if there's clarity and the intent and the focus, boom, it's right there. So you learn this, and you learn what we're speaking of through trial and error. And I mean, for me, at where I'm at, my perspective now, and this is available to everyone, my perspective now has me looking down at the world. I don't look in the world or at the world. I look down, and I see, these sort of things that are happening on our planet. So it isn't an ideology, right? It's an actual acquired, it's remembering yourself. Like Meta said, it's remembering who we are. We're actually meant to be telepathic. So when you ask
We
me,
are telepathic.
you'd have to at some level, if you're asking us how do you find what we know, is that the question you're asking us, Taylor?
Wait, can you ask that last part? You kind of cut out.
Are you asking us how did we find or come to what we know?
Yes.
Okay. We did it through the ask and receive universe, which means that every time you put so you're constantly noticing yourself, okay? That's how you function. So if you really paid attention, you would see that everything that you say, think, or do comes from a noticing of something. So when you ask questions like, why are people so mean on the planet? It just became what sort of where my focus went, and I started to receive answers. And the answers started showing up like because they had this belief that they needed to be sick, or because they were told they couldn't go into the sun because they might get cancer, like just the dumbest stuff. And so, but you get my drift, right? So you're working the ask and receive. And then where I was going before was, I'm at the place when I look down at the world now that they're actually showing me what is playing out actually in an earth momentum. So I knew something would happen in February in Canada, Freedom Convoy. I knew that they would start vaxing in June of 2020, months before they announced it. And I knew that vax wouldn't work. They didn't tell me what it was actually going to be, but they told me that it wouldn't work. And it's just energy. It's just that car going by, and it's a thought that whips by that you just have to choose to know is part of the overall consciousness that is actually thinking as well. And so the solutions are there. They flow through you. One of the constructs that I would debate that would come down is that man teaches us our knowledge. I would debate that. That is a fable.
Okay, so Andrea, that's really great, and I think that's awesome. I have two hands here and I know the burning duck's been waiting a long time. So this is going to take a lot longer than just this conversation for sure. And we're going to come back, and it's 11:11, perfect timing. I want to hear the last couple of hands, and then we are going to close it down because we've been on here for 3 hours now. I know the room's shut down. But Taylor, yeah, please come back and start practicing the information and see what happens, what shows up. Go ahead.
Yeah, first let me say I absolutely love this space. This is a space that you definitely are required to roll your sleeves up when you come in, and if you're going to speak in it. So I have politely been over here rolling my sleeves, hoping that I could put a little nugget of information into it that anyone finds worthy. But I'm going to try and kind of from three different perspectives address Taylor's question. And the first one is going to be from a Christian perspective, okay? Because at one point I was the head of a men's ministry. And so I do feel like I have an understanding of that perspective. And the best way to look at it from a Christian perspective is the earth as a whole is basically the equivalent to who Job is in the Bible. God gave the earth actually to the devil to do his own free will on. And there's a lot of mistakes that people think that, he has total rule over the earth. But if you call out his name, he will always be there. He will always come. But the devil has domain over this earth, and it is up to Christians to call on their God to protect them in that situation. Now, I have had very difficult questions. For instance, there was a school bus of kids who were coming back from they were church children coming back from an outing, and a drunk driver hit the school bus, and the school bus burned up and all the kids died, and the person that was driving the drunk, he lived. And people would ask me, what's your explanation behind that? The same with my time in Africa. In Africa, our compound got broken into. All the men were murdered, with the exception of a couple, and all the women were raped and murdered. And people are asking, how can you be there preaching the word of God and your God let this happen? Well, again, the enemy has free will over this earth, and he can do what he wants, and evil people are going to do evil things. But also another thing that we don't understand is the long-term plan in everything. We make the assumption that we can just separate good and evil with a defining line, and that's not the truth. Sometimes so much good comes out of evil things that have happened that it almost takes that evil thing to happen in order to make this great change in the way that things are following into place. And one example I would give is, let's say that we're in a parade, okay, and you and I are in the marching band, and the only thing you and I can see are the other members of the band in front of us, and we can see some of the people into the crowd and to our left and to our right. Now, if you see it from a God perspective, he's up in the highest building looking down. He could see the floats in front of us. He could see the floats behind us. He could see for so many streets all the way around us. So he knows exactly where this parade is going and how everything's going to unfold and what's going to be next and what happened first. So he has the ultimate plan for that. So that's kind of, from a Christian perspective, that's kind of my take on it, is the fact that we have to trust in God to play things out that is going to be for his best benefit in the outcome. Now, from what can be considered a quote unquote scientific standpoint, there's been a lot of scientific studies, and I love to talk about this, man, because it could change everybody's perspective on things, which is how to talk to your water. Many scientists have proven that you can take a water molecule and you can literally yell at it every single day and just degrade this piece of this water molecule, and it will deteriorate. But at the same time, you can actually take dirty water and speak life into it and praise it and tell it how beautiful it is. And that molecule itself will start to make itself beautiful and pure and clear. And we, being human beings, are made up of how much water? An immense amount. So the words that we speak to ourselves when we wake up and we look at ourselves and we say, oh my God, I'm so disgusted. I'm so fat. I'm so short. I'm so tall. I'm so skinny. I don't like my hair. I don't like my lack of hair. We're speaking that into our water every day, and we're muddying it up. And the people that we surround ourselves with, that we allow the way that they talk to us, even if it's in a joking manner of saying, I hate to say this, but the entire time I grew up, my father was always telling me how stupid I was and how I made horrible decisions. And my water heard that. And I'm not blaming him for anything that I did. I'm a man of my own decisions, and I own up to the decisions that I've made. But when we surround ourselves, because it's scientifically been proven yet again, we're the sum of the individuals that we hang around with. Scientists have proven if you put people that have, let's say, 110 IQ, and you have 15 of them in a room, and you put a person in there that has 95 IQ, over a period of time, that individual's IQ will come up to meet the one above him. At the same time, if somebody is in there with 140 IQ, over time, his IQ is going to come down to match that. You're going to be the sum of those around you. So if you surround yourself with bad people, bad things are going to happen. It's just the law of attraction. And now, from what you say, is
There's
a
Bible
quote
verses
unquote.
for each of those too. Like thou shalt not be in the
Absolutely.
counsel of the ungodly, and also the tongue is like a dagger. So whenever it says tongue's like a dagger, that goes to the water thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, from a quote unquote, what people want to call spiritual, because I was level 2 Reiki for a long time. That transcended over into being able to channeling some form of an Indian ancestor, which turned into hands-on healing, where I did Indian chanting through breathing and meditation and things of that nature. And I really went through what my wife and I have been discussing, because she's coming through the tail end of her spiritual awakening, and the things that are happening with her are absolutely beautiful. Which, by the way, if she's still in here, no, I think she left, but Lana or whatever, that is totally my wife's perfect twin. But I went through, I believe, my spiritual awakening in somewhere roughly in the early 2001, 2002, and what caused it. And if you click on my bio and look at my post, my twinned post, it is basically the matrix, where it says you can't get to full enlightenment until you've gone through the hatching and being reborn out of the egg, and having been shown the real truth of everything that has been a lie your entire life. And I went through that awakening due to the fact that I was forced into a situation where I was living in Maine by myself for about a 4-month period, and in the darkest times of winter. And I was forced to look at everything inside me. And also, the only entertainment I had was the woods and the lakes and the animals that surrounded me. So I became more in tune and more in touch with them. And I understood that there is a flow of energy that goes around all of us. We walk with it. It surrounds us. Your chakras, your aura, you carry that with you everywhere that you go. And it pretty much rubs onto the people beside you, the people around you. And again, similar to the speaking of the water, if we're going to continue to put ugliness into the world, and this is why my wife and I don't tune into local news or national news, because it's nothing but mostly lies in the agenda, in my personal opinion, of where they want to lead us as human beings. And it wants to keep us at a low vibrating state. It wants to keep us in this 3D world where we're divided by race, where we self-segregate, and where we condemn other people because they're not of the same color, they're not of the same thought process. And one of the things that was beautiful that was said earlier is, find your happiness. And what my wife always says is, be unapologetically who you are. Find that thing inside of you that makes you happy, that human being that you never knew was there, because nobody would let you be it. If you tried to be it in front of your parents said, hey, don't act that way. That's not how you're supposed to act. If you tried to do it around your mate, they would say, grow up. You're embarrassing me. Find that person where you can be who you are internally, and that person help you cultivate that inside of you. And that's where, at least for me, I began to find my true happiness, my true center. And I'm going to end on this, and it's one of my favorite things. You can look at Hinduism, okay? It says, this is the sum of the duty. Do not do to others that would cause pain to you. Buddhism, it says, treat others in a way that you yourself find thankful. Confucianism says, the words that we need to live ourselves by is loving kindness. Do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself. Taoism says, regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain. Your neighbor's loss is your loss. So here's the big picture. It's not about who's telling the message. The big point is, are you getting the message? And that message is, we all need to unify together as human beings that are as entities, because I believe we're beings that are in this human form currently, and understand that our divide is created by a race that wants to keep us separated so they can control us as slaves in one way or the other. I mean, that's being a little drastic, but they do. They want us to not unify together and understand that we're more benefit together than we are separated. And they want to create that great divide, but that can always be overcome by love, just like the Bible says, and of these things, the most important of all is love. As long as we love and have compassion, and I'm an empath, so I have a difficult time being around anybody that is struggling and is downtrodden without my heart bleeding and breaking for them. and it's very hard for me to do that. So I find so much joy in being able to pick those individuals up. So that's my happiness. And I've been fortunate enough to have somebody in my life now that says, do that, go after that, pursue that, and find your joy there. So my life's been really wonderful since then. But I've rambled on, and I just appreciate this group, man. You all are saying some beautiful things. You're debating respectfully and very politely, and to me, that's the sign of a mature space. And I just wanted to say I'm grateful to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, the Burning Duck. That was so beautiful. I just wanted to also share with everyone that I hold a meditation space on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and it's called the New Earth Meditation Visualization. And, we create our reality coming in and meditating to the guided meditation towards the new earth, which is really beautiful. And we're doing one with the chakra healing this weekend and also moving into the new earth meditation. So I just wanted to share that. The burning duck actually triggered that one. I put it up in the nest and it's also in the message area of this talk. I'm going to go to Meta and then Martin. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to add on to. Oh, I don't know if you can hear me now. Yeah, I was just going to add on. I just was inspired by all the things that that Burning Duck had said. I just wrote down. Find your freedom. Find the love in yourself for yourself, just the way you are. Find your center in the storms. And it is that calmness that when you go again within the center, that's where you'll find the answers that you're looking for. It's that calmness. The chaos is on the outside. Find that calmness within. I think there was as far as the comment of I'm fat, be mindful. That's what I was mentioning earlier. Be mindful of the garden. I call it the Garden of Eden in your mind. You decide moment by moment what flowers and weeds grow in your Eden. Be mindful of your spells and spelling. That's what I meant by the map is not the territory. I was thinking about the eternal Tao says the eternal Tao cannot be named. And when you go, that's what I meant by the profoundness of the map is not the territory. When you're letting go of the maps, embrace the uncertainty, but it is about letting go because that's where a lot of the fear resides. It's still, for many years, I'm just going to leave you with 4 words that kind of, as you were mentioning earlier, Andrea, about dualities. And it's a difference between understanding, as we've heard a lot of these conversations, understanding versus knowledge. Knowledge kind of orbits around 100%, which is a contained unit, but understanding overflows and interconnects with all the other vessels. So,
maybe such as our creator.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of, I think, what it was that I forget who it was, the young woman that was a few speakers back, that spirit cannot be contained. But the universe is built up. I see it. I don't know. This is how I express it anyway. Is vessels like bubbles within bubbles within bubbles, infinitely exchanging itself between chaoses and orders. And so we kind of need to. I no longer look at control as the answer. I use it manage versus control. I manage chaos. I don't want to impose order on anything because sooner or later, chaos will break that order as well. And you need to understand those dualities. And so I'm, again, back to understanding is more about listening and managing. I say I manage chaos. I have control over nothing. Its control is an illusion in that way. But I manage the scenarios before me in the present moment of now. I guess that's my way of looking at let go. You have to let go of control in order to find the freedom that you're looking for, and that freedom is love. It begins really with continuing to love yourself, and from there you have enough within your vessel to love everyone else. The more you love yourself, the more you have to give out. So that's I guess I'll leave it with that. Thank you for letting me speak and add.
Thank you, Meta. This is awesome. It's funny. I've always the aspect of chaos to me has been something that has been also constructed on the human, because I understand the aspect of chaos on the earth and in a cosmic level, but I don't believe in the human aspect. I think it's also been imposed. I also believe it's a construct. So I'd love to have that conversation another evening, or bring it up and open it up to the floor, because it's a very interesting aspect that we take this duality on within ourselves. And I think the longer we take the duality on within the human aspect, I find that to be destructive on the human itself, because the reason why we're in this mess in the first place is because we've been separated already. We've been brought to the furthest part of who we truly really are. So and we're trying to integrate ourselves, brings ourselves back to our whole, to ourselves. So I don't believe that chaos is something that is is a is a universal thing for a human being. I think it is for the earth, and I think it is for the cosmos. I think it goes through a destructive and reconstructive aspect, but I think there's a part of the human that has been separated purposefully. So,
Mind if I just add one other thing to add to this about
yeah,
order and chaos? I think
yes,
that as I get older, I redefine what order and chaos is, because at times what I thought was chaos in my youth and middle age,
yeah,
I've been gifted. The universe unveils its blooming. And as I get older, what I thought was chaos is now an order of a greater order that was beyond my perception. And I think that that's kind of our perceptions and our ability to open our minds is right in the ever now moment, but we're clouded. And sometimes what we perceive before us as a truth and as a chaos may be such a complex symphony of order that may reveal itself later on if we let go of the current orders that we hold on to, thinking that they are of a solid form. That's why I look at it as more of a liquid universe now, that you have to recognize we're in this river flow. I recognize that it's an ever blooming. We are blooming. We are learning. We are relearning. We are relearning to remember, and the universe is learning and blooming too. And I think that that's kind of as the chaos order thing is. Some days you wake up and it's an order, other days it's perceived as a chaos. And so is it, and it changes depending on what you eat, how much you've slept, how old you are, and what runs through your body as to whether you see it as an order or a chaos. So that's what I meant by the uncertainty of I'm learning who and what I am, because the definitions disappear as you let go of the maps on the territory. You find out that you're the universe, and you connect and dial in as you let go. And as you let go, I've heard it before, like I think it was Wayne Dyer, let go and let God. You realize that you are not in control, and we are one aspect of it. When you let go of your identity, of all the things that identify you and me as Meta, Mark, or whatever those names that were all given to me, when you let go of that and you are in the present now, and you realize that you're not even any of those things, you become part of the God. It's beyond the uttering of words can't describe it. You're in that zone, and in you are then the ocean not just a drip at that point. You're in that ocean that's moving, undulating. And that's what I meant by the music of the spheres. And they're there. It's a timeless thing that will go on. And that's where we're moving to.
Sorry about that. I was trying to hit hearts here.
Yeah, no worries. Sharing that, reconnecting, and I think that that's what we need to reconnect. The universe it speaks to us, it whispers, it yells, it just in so many different ways. And I think the other thing that I just would like to share is about the listening. I think listening in different ways with all our perceptive tools, our senses, and then and also the ability to letting go, and the information comes to you. When you least expect it, it's there. It's there, and it's within you. But at the end, yeah, love yourself, and you will. It's part of loving the rest of the universe and dialing in and connecting with it. I think that's kind of what I'm noticing from the majority of the conversations here. Yeah, thanks for letting me share, Dee.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, but I would love to have a conversation on that. Eventually, I'd like to bring it to the forefront. Hey, Martin.
Hey, good. Love the conversation, Dee. Your room rocks. Great bunch of people. Uh, you know, um, we've had veterans here, and they're here, and they're left. They're so important, and we should recognize them because they're the reason, not me, you, or the other people, but are veterans. Why we're able to be in a space like this, and have some form of harmony, and we all seek the understanding. And um, because we're just people, I don't have the answers. None of us in this room really have the answers. We can help each other. That's not only the Christian way, because I don't want to throw in religion, because it's just like oil and vinegar. You know what? It's about everybody caring, and we all come from different walks of life. Okay, and we all have different occupations. We deal with different things, but I think what a commonality is that everybody in this room cares. And I'll say everybody in this room gives a shit. We do care, and that's the important thing. Um, Mixed in with everything that we've all said, and we must continue to care. We must continue to lend a hand to each other. We must those that are in fear. We need to bring the fear down. We need to give understanding that you know what, no one's alone. We'll try and be the road that we're on, that I'm on. It's packed. It's with you and me. It's everybody here, and we're, as I say, we're no better than each other, and we're growing with each other. Uh, we're just trying to be great Americans, Canadians. We're trying to just to be great humans, and it all comes down to, as I say, I'll say again. There's one race, and that's the human race, and it's so important that in the end of the day, that we can leave these rooms, spaces, or whatever, um, with the belief that whatever we believe in and whatever directions we believe are the true directions or close to it, is that let's not stop caring, understanding, and helping one another. And if you can help anybody in any way, and if anything works, please do it. Because in the end, we are our brothers and sisters, keepers. And you know what? Um, we cannot survive, and we will not survive if we give up, and we will not give up. This is a strong room, wonderful people, and again, Dee, bravo, bravo, and you're my favorite Canadian, and you're one of Kano's treasures. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh my God, Martin, you're so sweet. Dan, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for letting me speak. I just was going to piggyback on, was that Martin that said that? Was just talking, Martin?
Yeah, it was Martin.
Say, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% behind what he just said. I was raised to treat the CEO the same way you treat the janitor. You know, it's just all about respect. It doesn't matter everybody comes from different walks of life, and sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down. But if we always continue to try to help each other while we help ourselves, we can't just give everything away. We have to maintain ourselves too. But when you can give, you know, even something little, like I'm just piggybacking on what he said. He said it so well. It's just the little things, like a smile, a hug, a wave, just simple stuff. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Dan, so much. I really want to thank everybody for being on board this evening. I wanted just to share again, I'm holding a meditation space, a New Earth meditation space on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, this is about, the meditation is about creating our reality, focusing on how we can create our new reality, and stepping into into the breaking down of the constructs and really having it practiced. So I do the meditation on Sunday, and then we come out and do this conversation on expansion on Tuesday, so that we can have some shifts happening. People, things happen for people during that meditation, and then they come out and they want to speak about it. So I'd love for all of you to attend, and on Tuesday nights we can have these conversations and breaking down these beliefs and these constructs that have built around us. And like I said before, this has all been scientifically proven. They've had thousands of people meditating, and it's stopped tons, or 20 to 25 to 30% of the crime in Washington. So imagine if the world stopped and meditated for the whole day. What do you think could happen? I think that's one construct that needs to come down, is that we need to be physical and fight, and we need to do all these physical things in order to have things work out. And I don't believe that at all, as I've seen miracles happen with meditation. But I want to close off and say thank you to all, and I really appreciated everyone that participated. Andrea, my co-host, CV. We also had join us Shadowfox, who's no longer here. She's wonderful. We had so much information shared with her too. Andrea, CV, did you want to share any last words before we go?
Well, I'll just say that I appreciate this room. It massages my soul, which is wonderful. I used to do massage therapy. Yeah. And so I appreciate you guys so much for being here. Much love, everyone. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys again sometime, maybe this Sunday. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Much love.
Thank you.
Yeah, great space. Everybody was great. Lots of great questions. I have one question through DM that I'll come back to, and I'll do it just one-on-one. And I'll wrap it up. I'll kind of close into a tidy little bow. I don't know if Duck left, but
he did.
Okay, so I'll quickly say, he used the word "I'm an empath," but I would call people to their awareness that label, if you will. I would call you to the higher word and just acknowledge that you can translate vibration. And that's really what it is. When you're around people and you can feel what's going on with them, all you're doing is translating the vibration, or you're picking up the radio station they're playing, right? So I again, every human can do it, right? And we're only doing this because we want to show how these labels need to come down, right? Because to say I'm an empath, I do this, then that negates it for the person next to us that could also be doing it, right? Because then you believe you have to be an empath to do it. And it's not a true story. And so the labels, so if we take all these labels down, they've given us the labels, they're doing the conditioning and all of it, what are we left with? And that's really what we're being called to look at. If we look at ourselves and define all down. And Meta, that was great, right? Super great. Love to hear you speak. You know, the emotional sort of ebb and flow is what we're learning how to ride, right? Like that, learning how to deal with the emotional structure, which is, think of it like sort of keys on a piano, and the ebb and flow and moving in that. You have to learn to regulate that. And so being called to yourself to understand yourself, that's how you find the ability to regulate. Chaos is definitely an interesting topic because chaos would in some form be a perspective, right? If we're going to talk about perspectives, let's talk about them. So if you call something something, it's a perspective or a label or a belief or a title, right? So to say there's chaos means you have to see it as chaos.
Yeah.
I can't hear your mic. I can't hear you speaking anymore, Andrea.
The universe is saying good night.
Yeah, it's time to go. Chaos is stepping in. Andrea, we can't hear you. Okay, everyone, I'm gonna shut it down. Have a good night.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you, everyone.
We'll see you again next week.
Good morning, everyone.
Good night.
Good morning.